Chapter 252. The night exploration of the 100 Herb Garden came to an end just like that. Even though no problems were solved. Even though the whole night was filled with fear. Even though a lot of incomprehensible things happened. Even though Sun Lang became very strange. Even though he clearly brought me to find my new master, he almost beat her up. But it's over. All gone. Because I can finally solve the problem in this gloomy and strange place where birds don't shit and chickens don't lay eggs. Sima Ping's face revealed an excited expression, like a cheerful deer. She skipped to Sun Lang's side and asked in a very obedient and careful manner, "Let's go?" At this moment, she must be feeling nervous and excited, eager to leave this strange and suspicious 100 Herb Garden. She might even be chanting loudly in her heart, "Ade, vegetable beds and acacia trees, Ade, stone well railings and mulberry fruits. In short, I don't need to come to this damned place anymore." And with Sun Lang and this godly Dr. Lu's unfriendly relationship, he definitely won't keep me as her disciple. In other words, I'm liberated? Liberated? Sun Lang had just reached an agreement with Lu Shujian. The hostile atmosphere between the two eased a little. Hearing this, they both stared blankly and looked at Sima Ping with an inexplicable expression. The girl was scared by their gazes. She took a step back and said submissively, "Then let's sit for a while?" Lu Shujian took a puff of her cigarette and smiled faintly. "Ping Yi Dao's disciple, interesting." Sun Lang said with a benevolent expression, "He's a bit stupid, please forgive him." Godly Dr. Lu nodded, "Since she's going to take over Ping Yi Dao's mantle, I'll definitely teach her seriously." Sun Lang was like the most qualified parent, nodding repeatedly, Yes, I'll have to trouble you, teacher. As long as she's not obedient, hit her with all your strength, hit her carefully, and hit harder. Anyway, it's not like she's hitting me, just hit her until she's obedient." "Wait." The smile on Sima Ping's face instantly turned into horror. "I still have to acknowledge her as my master?" Divine Dr. Lu said faintly, "I'm only going to be your teacher. You're Ping Yi Dao's disciple. No one can take this away from you. You don't have to worry, and you don't have to carry any burden. Putting aside your master's actions for the time being, I can't compare to him in terms of his heart." She seemed to be reminiscing about what had happened to Ping Yi Dao. She sighed softly and said, "You can just call me Mister. I hope that there will be new medical techniques in this country." Sima Ping felt a little better, but she immediately reacted, Although the man who brought you here is a bastard, his foresight is accurate. If you want to take over your master's mantle, you must shoulder a burden and responsibility that ordinary people can't imagine. Not only do you need an indomitable temperament and a strong spirit, you also need brilliant martial arts and a strong physique. More importantly, you must understand some principles that can support you on your path. Divine Dr. Lu held the pipe in his hand, and a faint pride appeared on his face. "Therefore, in this world, I'm the only one who can teach you." Sun Lang stood at the side, lowered his head and counted with his fingers. Ziegler, Qin Tianshi, Long Air, Corpse Keeper. Divine Dr. Lu's expression stiffened, and a trace of killing intent flashed in his eyes. He glanced at Sun Lang coldly, but the ranger's skin was thick, and he remained unmoved. She snorted coldly, then took a puff of the pipe and slowly exhaled a mouthful of smoke. The smoke floated in the air and formed the word morning. She said indifferently, "I'll give this to you. This is what I wrote down in my early years, and I've always remembered it in my heart. Do you know what it means?" Sima Ping hesitated. "Are you telling me that I need to be diligent in learning medicine?" "That's where you're wrong," Sun Lang said from the side. "Have you heard of the so-called Jianghu rankings? The top 10 masters, the top 10 beauties, the top 10 noble clans, the top 10 young masters. You, Mr. Lu, have a deep hatred for these vulgar and melodramatic rankings, so he wrote a big 10 sons to protest and condemn the exaggerated and melodramatic style of the martial arts world today. He nodded as he spoke, and then added in a low voice, "Of course, this has nothing to do with her being ranked 11th in the Divine Doctor's Book of Rejuvenation." The veins on Lu Shujian's forehead bulged. She felt that she could no longer tolerate this idiot, so she said sternly, "Jia." Sun Lang glanced at her. Sooner or later, I'll be angered to death by you." Lu Shujian patted her chest hard to calm down, and rolled her eyes at Sun Lang. She waved her hand and said, "Leave my student here, and you can scram." Only then did Sima Ping remember that she was going to be left here by Sun Lang? Left in this gloomy and terrifying 100-herb garden, and accompanied by this mysterious new teacher who was actually not on good terms with Sun Lang? In an instant, her heart was filled with panic and fear, and Sun Lang's image in her heart had become unprecedentedly warm and lofty. In an instant, she had an infinite attraction to him. The little girl looked at Sun Lang as if she had seen a family member, and threw herself at him, her acting skills reaching their limits. I don't want. Sun Lang, I can't bear to part with you, don't leave me." Sun Lang very nimbly dodged to the side, and pretended to wipe his tears. Be good, the ending of your father's marriage. When you grow up for another 2 years, we'll play again. You're still young now, study hard and improve every day." Sima Ping looked at his annoying appearance, and was furious. She said angrily, "You're still betting with her with Sir. You two haven't even determined who's the enemy yet, and you dare to leave me here alone? Do you still have a conscience?" Sun Lang said quietly in a voice that everyone could hear. "Shoo! The wind is too soft, don't talk, I'm placing you by her side as a spy to gather information." The girl was so angry that she wanted to kick him. "Spy your head. If she has any evil intentions, even if there are 10 of me, I'll still die." "Don't worry, you won't die," Sun Lang said seriously. "Think about it, from now on, you don't want to stay by your teacher's side, and want to stay in Lu Town's hotel? Think about it, there have been so many troubles in this town recently, aren't you afraid of being targeted by some dirty things?" Sima Ping said loudly, "I can follow you first." Sun Lang waved his hand. Go, we're going to kill people and set fires, a child like you following us, aren't you afraid of being scared?" "I'm afraid that I'll also be scared if I stay here." The ranger sighed. "Sigh, I really don't know what to do with you. Children are too troublesome. How about this, aren't you just scared? How about this, you continue to learn from your teacher, and I'll let Chao Patao protect you, okay?" The girl hesitated for a moment, but when she remembered Zhao Yunlong's unreasonable fighting power, she immediately relaxed. "Okay." Lu Shujian sneered slightly. "So that's what you're thinking. If you want Zhao Yunlong to monitor me, just say it." "Oh, it's good that you don't mind." Sun Lang waved his hand. "Chao Patao, from now on, you're in charge of monitoring Miracle Dr. Lu. If she comes into contact with any suspicious people, immediately shoot and tie them up. If she does anything suspicious, immediately check and make a copy. When she's teaching students, you can search her study to see if there's anything useful." "That's enough," Lu Shujian said angrily. "Don't go too far." Sun Lang stretched lazily. "It's a gambling competition, so why don't we each use our own methods? If you're not convinced, you can also send someone to monitor me. I'm very happy to do so." Miracle Dr. Lu took a deep breath and shouted, "Black King, follow him and monitor him." Who was the Black King? Sun Lang had just thought of this when he saw the Snake Beauty cautiously poke her head out from behind Lu Shujian, looking at him with eyes full of fear. So it was He Xiandang. Sun Lang immediately showed a sunny, gentle, and kind smile. "Hello." The Snake Beauty screamed and slithered back. She shivered and said, "I'm going to be made into snake soup." Lu Shujian couldn't help but feel angry. Then, she saw Zhao Yunlong swagger over with a gun. He stood not far from her and stared at her motionlessly. When he saw her looking over, he immediately raised his eyes and showed a look that said, "What do you want?" His attitude was wild and his expression was repulsive. He was practically carved out of the same mold as Sun Lang. There was indeed a world of difference between pets. There seemed to be something wrong? But, Black King, I still have to wrong you a little. Fortunately, although this guy's mouth is full of joy, he's actually a coward. At most, he'll scare you and tease you, but he won't really do anything to you. So she reached out and grabbed the Snake Beauty. She glared at her and said fiercely, "This is an order. Follow this man and see what he's doing. Then come back and report to me, understand?" Sun Lang was also teaching Zhao Yunlong the skills of undercover surveillance in all seriousness. First, smash her study. If you see a vase or bookshelf, don't let them go. The secret passage is most likely there. That's enough. After a series of threats and promises, Lu Shuzhen finally settled the Black King. The Snake Beauty looked like she was rushing to the execution ground. With 3 steps, she slowly moved toward Sun Lang. The ranger showed a kind smile like an uncle next door. He waved and said, "Little girl, come. Don't be afraid. I'll tell you a few interesting stories." The Black King said timidly, What stories?" "Don't be afraid. It's a very good wuxia story. Well, there's a hero called Guo Jing. When he was young, he experienced something that made him almost invulnerable to poison. Do you know what he did?" "I don't know. Actually, there's another person called Yang Guo. When he was young, he also experienced something that greatly increased his internal energy. He could even wield a big piece of metal like a tiger. Do you know what he did?" Chapter 253. Sigh, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Although drinking snake blood can make you immune to poison, and eating snake gall can greatly increase your internal energy, I don't need it, I don't need it, I don't need it. I won't go so far as to skin you and bleed you out, or cut open your stomach to take your gall. After telling the story of Hero Guo and Yang Longqi, He Xiandang was indeed scared out of her wits. Sun Lang had destroyed the snake's psychological defense, and he said amiably, "Then let's change to the story of the King of Fighters, okay?" The Snake Beauty trembled as she protested, Can you not tell stories about snakes?" "Sigh, you're so troublesome." Sun Lang thought for a moment, Then let's also tell a story about poisonous creatures. There was a second-generation emperor called Duan Yu. He ran very fast. Do you know why he ran so fast? Everyone said that he practiced the wave-like subtle steps, but I don't think so. Practicing martial arts can only be counted as one's own effort, but a person's struggle also depends on the course of history. The ranger said with a serious face, "So I think that Duan Yu running so fast has to do with eating the mangu zhuha." This He Xiandang was indeed a beast. Her wisdom was too shallow. She couldn't understand the true essence of the shroud technique, treating all of Sun Lang's brilliant ideas as vulgar words. She said weakly, "I don't understand what you're saying." "Your storytelling skills are much worse than Master's," Sun Lang snorted. "Then tell the story of the salt and pepper snake and the Yu Yang spicy snake." No. Let's talk about this. TSK, so many problems. Watching the man and snake disappear into the darkness one after another, Lu Shuzhen tapped the cigarette ash, her face full of confusion. "I don't know why, but I feel like I've forgotten something very important." She turned to look at Zhao Yunlong, only to find that the world-famous General Zhao was leaning on the barrel of his spear, staring motionlessly at Sun Lang's departing figure, as if he had been abandoned by his master. Seeing this, Dr. Lu shuddered. Hey, do you really have to do this?" Zhao Yunlong glanced at Dr. Lu expressionlessly. "It's hard to explain this kind of thing to an old woman like you." Lu Shuzhen gritted her teeth and said, "Do you want to fight?" Great General Zhao's eyes lit up in an instant. She stabbed her spear into the ground and placed her right hand behind her back as she beckoned to Master Lu. Come, come, come. I'll fight with only one hand. Lu Shujian was silent for a moment, then waved to Sima Ping. Let's go. I'll take you to settle down. Sima Ping glanced at Zhao Yunlong, then trotted to catch up with her new teacher, trying to adapt to the role. But when she looked at the gloomy and desolate herb garden, she still felt a burst of panic. Are we going to live here? Of course not. Lu Shujian looked back at the herb garden, her former home. A trace of loneliness and sadness flashed in her eyes. She said softly, "Let's go to Sanwei's study." On Sun Lang's side, he had already left the herb garden with He Xiandang, but he was still talking nonsense with this Orochimaru, telling him some horrible children's stories, impacting the other party's pure three views and young heart. Ryo Luji, Orochimaru. Damn it, why are they all little Japanese? Oh, then let's talk about Liu Bang's story. He Xiandang realized the similarities between these stories. It seems that in the stories you tell, all the snakes have to be killed, so it's like that. Sun Lang thought for a moment. Then let's talk about a story that won't be killed. How about the story of Su Xian? I can still feel a terrible malice coming. TSK, your nose is really sharp. Sun Lang said loudly. How about the disaster of the python? Not so good. Sun Lang said angrily. This won't do, that won't do, you can't expect me to tell the story of the boy python. What is this? A pure fairy tale. Sun Lang coughed twice. After a long time of foreshadowing, he finally revealed his true colors. You don't like listening to my stories. How about you tell me a few stories? It had to be said that the Snake Beauty was an inexperienced monster with very simple values. She was no match for a cunning and despicable human being like Sun Lang. Hearing his words, she walked into the trap like a fool. I don't know how to tell stories, Sun Lang said kindly. You're wrong. You have to know that art comes from life. Stories aren't made up. Instead, they are based on experiences. After a certain degree of artistic processing, they become wonderful stories, that is to say. He Xiandang asked in confusion, You're talking about Ryoluji, Orochi, and so on. Sun Lang didn't even blink his eyes. He said proudly, Yes, I defeated Orochi with Iori Yagami and rubbed my Shiranui's chest by the way. I killed Ryoluji with Zhuge Liang and rubbed Yao Chan's chest by the way. Amazing! He Xiandang praised. But why did you rub her chest by the way? Because I like it, but that's not the point, Sun Lang said mysteriously. So, do you understand? You can tell your own story, the story of you and your master. Well, the Snake Beauty thought hard and then shook her head. No, my master just whispered to me in snake language that I can't reveal anything about her and the herb garden. Cunning, cunning. But this was expected. Sun Lang rolled his eyes and came up with a plan. No problem. Let's not talk about the herb garden and your master. Let's talk about other people's stories. The Snake Beauty asked in a daze. Other people's stories? Whose stories? Anyone's stories, Sun Lang said in a relaxed tone. Haven't you seen other people in your life? Yes, yes. He Xiandang counted on his fingers. A fierce fat uncle, a crazy old woman, a bad guy with a fork. I know a lot of people. Sun Lang's smile became meaningful. That's amazing. Come, let's talk as we walk. The Sanwei study was only half a mile away from the 100 Herb Garden, but the difference was like heaven and earth. At least, Sima Ping, who had been worried the entire way, finally relaxed after stepping into the Sanwei study after being nervous for an entire night. The night in the Sanwei study wasn't gloomy, only tranquil. The small garden, the small flower bed, everything was exquisite and peaceful. Most importantly, it didn't have the desolation and silence of the herb garden. Here, there was the smell of people. Lu Shujian closed the dark bamboo door and suddenly realized, not good. Zhao Yunlong turned his head in surprise. What's wrong? Master Lu stomped his feet and said, I miscalculated. I only told the Black King not to reveal anything about me and the herb garden, but I forgot to tell her not to listen to anything Sun Lang says, and not to believe anything Sun Lang says. This is bad. She's so stupid. In less than half a day, Sun Lang will coax her into spilling everything. Zhao Yunlong shook his head and said, "Just this? Even if you say it, it's useless. I advise you to give up and tell the truth. You'll lose sooner or later." Divine Dr. Lu said angrily, "I'm not like you. I'm not reserved at all." Zhao Yunlong looked at her with a smile that wasn't a smile, and then sighed softly. "I was reserved back then, and then? I don't even know how I survived these 2 years. I could only practice martial arts, train soldiers, eat and sleep without any free time. Because when I'm free, I'll let my imagination run wild. Once I think about it, I'll feel like a piece of my heart is empty." Lu Shuzhen was startled, and then sighed softly. "If you really want what's good for him, you should leave the Empire with him. Go as far as you can. Go to a place where no one knows you and never come back. Why should I?" Zhao Yunlong said coldly, "He can stay wherever he wants." Sima Ping had already slipped into the house tactfully. She very sensibly lit up the lights and cleaned the house, leaving the space for the 2 older women outside who had stories to tell. The 2 heroes of the celestial origin sector glared at each other coldly for a moment. Lu Shuzhen said softly, "Why bother? Why bother?" Zhao Yunlong said decisively, "The blood he shed and the pain he suffered back then can't be forgotten just like that. Whatever the Empire owes him, it has to be paid back no matter what." Dr. Lu shook his head with a bitter smile. "You know, he doesn't really care about the extravagant lifestyle and the high salary. So you're just going to let it go like that?" Zhao Yunlong's expression gradually became as cold as ice. "So you want to let it go like that? In just 2 years, how many people still remember him? How many people still mention him? The Empire is tight-lipped about this, and those who know gradually don't mention it. Especially a bunch of heartless ingrates. They were indebted to him, but they put on such a front. Do they think that it's okay to just offer incense and kowtow during festivals? To think that they can eat the delicacies? To think that they wear silk and satin comfortably?" Lu Shuzhen saw the change in Zhao Yunlong's expression. Hearing her words, the bitterness on her face grew stronger. She said softly, "I see. I'm afraid this isn't your idea alone. You want him to take back everything that originally belonged to him." Zhao Yunlong said coldly, "Do you think this is wrong?" Yes. This is a matter of course." Lu Shuzhen's eyes revealed a hint of uneasiness. After hesitating for a moment, she said softly, "I just feel that the celestial origin sector is indeed slowly splitting." Zhao Yunlong was shocked. "What?" Dr. Lu said gloomily, "The war of the celestial origin sector lasted for decades. Countless noble families were born and established, and many people were conferred the title of Marquis. The martial merits of the celestial origin sector are extremely strong. But 2 years ago we lost the leader who was nominally accepted by all parties, which planted the seeds of division. The marshals each had their own mountain. They were not subordinate to each other and did not obey each other. In fact, there were already conflicts. The peace that came with the end of the war was obviously intensifying these conflicts." She took a look at Zhao Yunlong and said calmly, "The battle for the crown prince means choosing a side. Everyone has their own agendas, and division is inevitable. But apart from this factor, just like you, there are people who want him to come back, but at the same time there are also people who want him to never come back. There are all kinds of reasons. I can see that the enormous heavens origin sector is slowly collapsing. Everyone has their own plans. Moreover, General Zhao, perhaps what happened in the War of the Great Desolate Mountain might be beyond our imagination. It might even have caused a serious enough impact on the imperial throne that has lasted for hundreds of years." Zhao Yunlong asked in a low voice, "What happened?" "I don't know. But I'm sure that, apart from Sun Lang, There must be someone else who knows. Lu Shuzhen chuckled. I wanted to figure it out myself. But now that he is here, maybe. She looked at the dark sky where a few stars were shining. Fine. Let's take the risk. Chapter 254. In Master Lu's mind, Sun, who was shouldering some kind of historical mission, didn't have the self-awareness of being in the center of big news. He didn't consider himself as a successor of feudalism at all. Through coaxing and deceiving, he easily got a lot of suspicious and important clues out of the Snake Beauty's mouth. It was just that this snake was ignorant and stupid. After all, what she knew was limited, and it was very messy and disorganized. Sun Lang needed to sort it out and summarize it himself. But this was already an unexpected gain. As for now, Uncle Sun waved his fist. It's time to repay the dang country. Let's go and knock down the Kong family store. As a simple monster, the Snake Beauty couldn't keep up with Sun Lang's train of thought. Knock down what? Sun Lang turned his head and smiled mysteriously. Just follow me. If they wanted to find out the truth behind the many strange things in Lu Town, Second Master Kong was naturally the first to bear the brunt. As the saying went, there must be a demon when things are abnormal. Then, the most strange thing was most likely the key point in this big news. This Kong Zhongwu was a martial artist in dire straits before, but in such a short time, he actually became an expert with extraordinary martial arts and wisdom. This was simply the most illogical thing. There must be a problem. Moreover, Sun Lang thought of the old monk and the flying centipede he had just met in the herb garden. The centipede had replaced the spine and parasitized the human body. Through its countless legs, it had affected the nerves and made the deceased look lifelike, as if it was controlling a puppet. At first, I thought that the transformation of Kong Zhongwu and the others was like Miss Zhao, being possessed by the spirit of the demonic weapon. But at that time, I was confused because I didn't sense the aura of the demonic weapon on Kong Zhongwu's body. Now, it seems that perhaps something more interesting has happened. The Snake Beauty had no idea what Sun Lang was thinking. However, since her master had ordered her to keep a close eye on this terrifying human, she naturally had to do her best to complete the task. Although he was very, very scary, scarier than any demon she had seen before, although Lu Town was a big town, it was still lonely in the middle of the night. At this hour, regardless of whether they had a wife or not, almost all of them were curled up under their blankets and doing something indescribable. The only difference was whether they were doing it on their own or on behalf of others. Therefore, there were only two figures walking along the river in the night wind. The surroundings were dark and windy, cold and empty. The willows swayed, and strange whimpering sounds came from the air. In this dark and strange atmosphere, it was enough to make ordinary people feel cold. Unfortunately, these two guys, one was a monster, and the other was a pervert who couldn't wait for a monster to jump out to relieve his boredom, so they were completely unaffected. Sun Lang thought about something as he walked. He turned around and said, Hey Xian Dang. My name is Black King. The Snake Beauty was stunned for a moment before she protested in dissatisfaction. Although I don't know what this weird name of yours means, I feel that it's not good. Sun Lang snorted. Crazy, then we'll call it. And don't call me Orochimaru. The ranger shrugged. Then, snake meat. The Snake Beauty trembled and said vigilantly, Why do you have to call me that? Sun Lang said proudly, You don't understand, right? This is a joke from the Radiation series. Snake Meat said helplessly, Although I really don't understand, I also don't understand what you have to be proud of. This reptilian snake monster's ability to ridicule has increased so quickly. Sun Lang's biggest pain point as an otaku transmigrator was poked by her words. He became a little angry out of humiliation and said gloomily, You're not allowed to call me that, right? Do you want to live up to your name? Do you want to become Snake Meat or Hei Xiandang? The Snake Beauty immediately became terrified and said honestly, Okay, okay, you can call me whatever you want, Sun Lang nodded in satisfaction. Suddenly, he changed the topic and asked as if nothing had happened, by the way, how did you get caught by that flying centipede? Aren't you good friends with the monsters of the herb garden? The snake beauty had just been confused by Sun Lang's nonsense, and was completely unprepared. When Sun Lang directly brought up the embarrassing matter of being caught by the flying centipede, she immediately became angry and loudly denied. Who is friends with that group of monsters? You disobedient little pet. Sun Lang's tone was disdainful. Your master has such a good relationship with the boss of the herb garden, but behind her back, you're secretly fighting and killing with the little brothers of the herb garden. You're really disobedient and not loyal enough. This sentence directly pointed at the snake beauty's professionalism and moral character as a monster pet. She absolutely couldn't accept it. Hei Xiandang said discontentedly, You human, how can you speak nonsense? How can master be good friends with those weirdos? Okay, as expected. There really was someone behind the herb garden's crazy dance of demons. But what was their goal? No matter who it was, why would they come to an ordinary town in the eastern Sui province just to turn a garden into a breeding ground for demons? What kind of spirit was this? Moreover, the family that this garden belonged to had produced a rather famous Tianyuan martial merit. Why did they have the guts to make a move against the Liu family? If Liu Shuzhen made a scene, there were many generals who had received her grace and been treated by her in the past. As long as a few of those damned Xiaoba stood up to support Master Liu, this matter would be blown up and the mastermind behind the scenes would have to bear the consequences. But they clearly knew this and still did it. It was impossible that they didn't know Liu Shuzhen's identity. Then there were only two possibilities left. The first possibility was that they were confident that they had enough strength, power, and assurance to stifle Liu Shuzhen's resistance. Or, they had grasped some kind of crucial weakness that was enough to make Liu Shuzhen not dare to make a big deal out of this matter. As for the second possibility, a trace of cold light flashed through his eyes. O godly Dr. Liu, you must not disappoint me. As for now, let's set our sights on Kong Zhongwu first. As he thought of this, his gaze toward Hei Xiandang became more and more amiable. So easy to coax, so simple, so childish, and so young. At this moment, he almost wanted to say something like, Little Tian. Bah, snake meat is the purest and kindest girl I've ever seen. He had never seen such a hostile quest NPC who had her heart facing the sun. Thinking of this, Sun Lang said in a gentle tone, Then let's talk about the flying centipede first. The snake beauty frowned. The flying centipede was her natural enemy. Even mentioning it made her feel uncomfortable. She originally didn't want to talk about that annoying guy, but the situation was not in her favor, because about 2 to 4 hours ago, the creature in front of her had replaced the so-called flying centipede and became Miss Black King's new greatest natural enemy. And it was probably the kind that hadn't been shaken for hundreds of years, so she still curled her lips, and an impatient expression appeared on her face. Why are you talking about it? Isn't it already dead? Yeah. But don't you monsters like to give birth to a nest in your lifetime? Sun Lang said earnestly. Does it have any brothers, sisters, aunts, grandfathers, grandmothers, or anything like that? Isn't it all mentioned in novels? If you hit the young one, a nest of the old one will jump out. Tell me in advance if there are any powerful characters in his family. It's better to be prepared. Ah! The snake beauty tilted her head and imagined dozens of flying centipedes gathered together to stare at her. She couldn't help but scream and shake her head like a rattle drum. How can there be so many of them? I've fought with him many times, and I've always been at a disadvantage. Even if he only had one brother, if he called for help, I would have been dead long ago. According to the setting, shouldn't a powerful centipede demon have 7 beautiful spider demon sisters? Sun Lang touched his chin and muttered, You've never met one. Is it because they're rare and difficult to cultivate? He asked a few more questions about the flying centipede. Unfortunately, He Xian Dang gradually became obedient. It touched on the forbidden matters that Master Lu had warned him about, so it shook its head like a rattled drum and refused to say anything. Sun Lang couldn't get any useful clues, so he smiled and gave up. Whether or not the flying centipedes could be mass-produced, how difficult it was to cultivate them, and whether or not they could control people perfectly, he would wait until he got to Kong Zhongwu's house. He would drag him out and knock him to the ground, then take off his clothes and study it. Thinking of this, he glanced at He Xian Dang again. Seeing that Sun Lang didn't press it step by step or even torture it, the snake demon seemed to be relieved. It patted its chest softly and murmured something like, "Master, don't worry, I won't say a word even if I die. You're my milk." The two of them didn't talk anymore. They quickened their pace and walked toward Kong Zhongwu's house. As for the address of this second Master Kong's house, Sun Lang looked around in the afternoon. Other than despising the vulgarity of the sex industry in Lu Town, he also investigated the location of a few key locations for this quest. Aside from the herb garden, he also investigated the location of Second Master Kong's and Xia Agui's mansions. Now that he had memorized it, even without an NPC to guide him at night, his journey was very smooth. Not long after, Second Master Kong's house was in front of him. This is it. Sun Lang glanced at the luxurious residence that was comparable to the 100 herb garden and clicked his tongue. He really knows how to enjoy life. This second Master Kong is like a salted fish turning over a new leaf, yet he doesn't forget to treat himself badly. I wonder which family he forcefully bought this residence from. He Xian Dang didn't understand these things and didn't care much about the extravagance and ostentation of humans. She blinked and asked, "Aren't we going in? Are we going to knock on the door?" Wait a minute. Sun Lang said in deep thought. "I'm considering whether to use Master AI's method or Master Kang's method to enter." I got it. He glanced at the muddle-headed snake beauty, and a wisp of, "I'm going to trick someone," flashed across his eyes. He waved his hand and said, "This time, we'll use Musashi's method to enter. It's decided on you, Big Rock Snake. Go straight in and tell them that the Pokémon trainer is here." Chapter 255. Obviously, the giant rock snake didn't understand Sun Lang's words. It blinked its eyes and stared at him. "My name has changed again. Also, what are you talking about?" Sun Lang frowned. "Are you stupid? Can't you understand such simple words? Simply put, first you use evil snake winding and hit this door into the sky. At the same time, I'll make a hand seal. We'll use the psychic technique together and pretend to be ninjas to attack. Then I'll arrange a battle strategy. Specifically, when I yell evil snake wrist explosion, you'll do this and this. When I yell Lu Jia, you'll do this and this." After listening for a while, He Xian Dang became more and more confused. However, she realized something with her sharp beast intuition. "So, why am I the only one fighting? Or rather, why should I help you fight?" "Nonsense, if you didn't fight, how could I put the blame on your master? If I didn't let the mastermind think that Master Lu was causing trouble, why would they send people to question her? If they didn't send people to question her, how could Chao Patao act according to the situation?" The simple He Xian Dang obviously didn't know that Sun Lang had such a complicated plan in his mind. However, this snake wasn't too stupid. She protested, "Master asked me to monitor you. He didn't ask me to be your fighter." Therefore, she wasn't too stupid, but she was still stupid in the end. "It seems that you don't understand the value of life." Sun Lang smiled gloomily. "I'll give you one more chance. Are you going to fight or not?" "I won't." The snake beauty was about to refuse loudly, but she suddenly saw Sun Lang's smiling face become 3 times friendlier than before. Then, she instantly realized what it meant to say that the situation was beyond her control. "Master, I feel bitter in my heart. A moment later, the silent night in the Kong mansion was broken by a thunderous explosion. A huge black python swung its head and tail. With a brutal charge, it broke a part of the thick red door. Wood shards mixed with the door knocker flew everywhere, and the momentum was terrifying. There was also a huge snake that anyone could tell at first glance that it was a monster, and it made the atmosphere even more terrifying. But compelling Shadow Ninja, who had summoned the snake's spirit, was clearly not satisfied with the result. Sun Lang listened to the screams that rang out after a moment of silence. He frowned as he looked at the half-smashed door and shook his head. "Did you not eat today? Why can't you smash the door properly?" Hei Xian's sweeping snake coiled its body and tilted its head, looking down at Sun Lang from above. It actually rolled its eyes in a very human-like manner, looking very interesting. At the same time, Hei Xian's sweeping snake's dissatisfied voice sounded in Sun Lang's ears. "Do you think this is a rammed mud wall? It's very hard and it's very painful. It's easy to talk while sitting. If you're so good, why don't you do it?" Sun Lang shrugged, picked up a small stone from the ground, and threw it at a high wall to the left of the door like a naughty child skipping on water. A series of sharp cracking sounds rang out. Hei Xian's sweeping snake's dynamic vision was very amazing. It clearly saw an ordinary-looking small stone pass through the thick air and hit the hard and thick wall with a whistling sound. Then it saw that the wall was like a surface of water, spreading out like a spider web of ripples. Following that, a rumbling sound like a landslide rang out continuously. Like a domino, one of the walls of the Kong mansion collapsed with a loud bang. Hei Xian's sweeping snake froze in midair. Its flexible and boneless snake body seemed to have stiffened. Turned around bit by bit, looking at the broken wall that was filled with dust, then turned back around bit by bit, looking at Sun Lang. Then it saw that Sun Lang was squatting on the ground, looking around for a suitable stone. Although snakes were cold-blooded animals, it still felt cold all over. Thus, it exerted strength in its body and soared into the air, scuttling into the courtyard of the Kong mansion. At this time, the people of the Kong mansion who heard the commotion had already rushed out. First, they saw that the courtyard wall had already collapsed, and then they saw the black python shaking its head and swinging its tail at the sky, roaring. Every one of them felt their hair stand on end, and the more timid ones were already scared to the point of shouting, "Someone come! Someone come quickly!" A big black snake broke the courtyard wall and rushed in to eat people. "That wasn't me." Hei Xian's sweeping snake was furious in its heart. It swept its tail and hit the person right in the middle. That person let out a blood-curdling scream and flew dozens of feet away, like riding on a cloud, and fell to the ground, wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves. There was no lack of thugs among the people who came out to protect the courtyard. Although they were very good at brandishing their spears and sticks, they were still just mortals. If it was a strong person who broke into the mansion to plunder, perhaps they would be able to bravely brandish their spears and swords to fight. However, when faced with this kind of terrifying snake demon with a monstrous aura, they were already somewhat timid. How could they have the strength to fight? One after another, they let out a shout and fled to the backyard, shouting loudly, "Quickly go and protect the master's treasured family, escort them away first." Sun Lang walked in from the main door and was stunned when he heard this. So disorderly. "Where's Kong Zhongwu?" He looked around a few times, picked a brother that he had a good impression of, and casually pointed at him. "Catch him for me." This time, Hei Xian's sweeping snake learned her lesson. She didn't say stupid things like, "Master didn't make me your lackey." Hearing this, she swept her tail, coiled around the target's waist, pulled him over, and threw him to the ground. "Good girl." Sun Lang waved his hand. "Go and smash everything. Smash everything that's empty. Let me teach you a lesson. Roll a tree or a pillar and hit it, it's much more efficient than using your tail and head to smash it. This move is called Big Snakes Don't Die from Their Tails." Therefore, a moment later, The people who fled to the backyard looked back and found that the snake demon had coiled around a thick and long pillar and was smashing everywhere, like a battering ram, smashing one house after another until it was on the verge of collapse. Bricks and tiles flew everywhere. They couldn't help but cry out in pain, protecting Master Kong's treasured family to escape to the back door. Sun Lang squatted beside the man who had won the prize and smiled. "Brother, what's your mother's surname?" The man was coiled and thrown by He Xian's sweeping snake, and he groaned in pain. He was originally scared out of his wits, thinking that he was going to become the snake demon's snack. He didn't expect that the snake demon didn't seem to be interested in him, but rather liked the construction and demolition industry. Just when he was relieved, he found an evil-looking guy squatting beside him. On such a dark and windy night, he walked with a terrifying snake demon. No matter how he looked at it, the guy in front of him looked like a big monster. His heart was in his throat again, and he cried hurriedly, "Spare me, my king. Spare me, my skin is rough and my flesh is thick. I'm not delicious. Who the F***ck wants to eat you?" Sun Lang rolled his eyes. "Beauties with breasts, long legs, and perky buttocks are delicious." "Yes, yes, yes," the man hurriedly chimed in, looking sincere and sincere. "Beauties are delicious, beauties are delicious. Their skin is smooth, and their bodies are so tender that you can pinch water out of them. Especially their buttocks and breasts, they are round and wobbly. It will definitely be exciting to bite them. This humble one's sour flesh is neither pleasing to the eye nor to the mouth." He acted so well and spoke so hard. It seemed that even if Sun Lang said that shit was delicious, he would definitely nod and agree, and then analyze the nutritional value of that thing in detail. After pretending to be elegant for a while, the man seemed to still feel insecure, and suggested in a low voice, "If my king is hungry, my master has a few beauties who probably haven't run far. How about I take you to chase after them?" Sun Lang smiled. "Looks like your loyalty isn't that high. Could this be what kind of master would have a servant?" "Yes, yes, 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 yes." The man nodded like he was pounding garlic. "I'm not a thing, and my master is even less of a thing. He was a martial artist who had fallen on hard times before, but who knows where he learned a set of evil martial arts. Once he gained power, he became even worse than the tyrants of this town, and he's even worse than them. He extorted, occupied, and forcefully bought land, passing off shoddy goods as good. He's vicious and merciless, and while the Liu family was arrogant and overbearing before, they were still humans for better or worse. That Rash Kong's actions after gaining power are worse than animals. Tut, tut, tut. Sun Lang kept nodding. "Brother, you're a man who understands the situation. I won't say much, but where's Kong Zhongwu?" The man looked troubled, and was unsure what to say when a dark voice suddenly rang out. "Hey, there's someone in the biggest house. What should we do? Smashed it? Could it be Second Elder Kong? How bold." Sun Lang smiled, rose to his feet and gestured at the man. "Come, meet your master." The man forced himself to his feet and watched as Sun Lang headed for the main hall. His eyes darted around, but he did not dare to run in the end. Gritting his teeth, he jogged after him and whispered, "Your Majesty, forgive me for speaking bluntly, but the one inside isn't Kong Zhongwu." "Oh? Then who is it?" Sun Lang came to the door of the main hall and kicked open the door. He saw that it was brightly lit inside, and there was still tea on the table that was still emitting white steam. There were some dried fruit crumbs and shells scattered on the ground. It was already past midnight, but the people here were still awake. What were they doing? His gaze turned to the side where the answer lay. A man with disheveled hair was hanging in the air and riddled with wounds. There was even a pool of blood on the floor, and it was clear that he had been hung up and beaten. Sun Lang took a closer look and asked, "Who's this big brother who hangs himself from the southeastern branch? Why is he here?" The man who understood the situation immediately replied, "Your Majesty, this is the head of the He family. Kong Zhongwu asked this Mr. He for his family's martial arts manual, but after he was rejected, he found an opportunity to secretly capture him and brought him back to his residence. He was severely tortured, and even after half the night, he still wouldn't spit out a single word. Sun Lang smiled and said, "Then where's the mighty and domineering second elder Kong?" The man lowered his head and said, "I dare not lie to you. When you were torturing the head of the He family, I was also there. Just an hour ago, Kong Zhongwu was still personally interrogating the head of the He family." Suddenly, someone knocked on the door to deliver a message. Kong Zhongwu had a secret conversation with this person, and then left in a hurry. Before he left, he instructed us to continue the interrogation, but be careful not to kill him. Sun Lang looked at him and found that he was not lying. A strange light flashed in his eyes. "Is this a coincidence, or—" Chapter 256. At this time, it had only been an hour since Sun Lang visited the 100-herb garden and met divine Dr. Liu. In other words, when the paladin was arguing with Master Liu, the second master of the Kong family, who was happily beating up the head of the He family and complaining about how snatching the secret manual was considered snatching, suddenly received a mysterious visitor and left in a hurry without saying anything. Sun Lang and He Xiandeng, who came to the door, found nothing. Whether this was a coincidence or something fishy, Sun Lang only needed to find another person to confirm it. Xia Gui was the lucky one who took over the Zhao family's business in Lu Town. He rose to power at almost the same time as Kong Zhongwu. Their paths to becoming rich were shockingly similar. In the past, they were both insignificant people who were not worth mentioning. But one day they suddenly gained amazing skills and ruthless method. While they talked and laughed, they swallowed up the local aristocratic family that had been in Lu Town for generations. If this was a preemptive plan of the opponent, Kong Zhongwu would run away in the night, and Xia Ague would most likely do the same, if there was really something wrong with him. "Let's go to Wei Zhuang." He Xiandeng turned back to her human form, and there was still some excitement on her face. It seemed that the demolition just now had given her a lot of excitement, as if she had opened the door to a new world. Hopefully, this good girl wouldn't be led astray. Wait! The security guard of the Kong family, who had abandoned the dark for the light, glanced at the head of the He family, who was still hanging in the air, and stammered, My king, what should we do with Mr. He?" "Send him back." Sun Lang waved his hand. "In my opinion, this kind of side quest will most likely give you some bottle caps and experience points. It won't even give you a lousy gun. Take the quest reward and go whore yourself." "Bottle caps? Gun?" The security guard was dumbfounded. He glanced at the head of the He family, who was swaying on the beam and was about to cry. "Send him back? I also had a part in whipping him. How would I dare to do that?" "Then it's none of my business." Sun Lang laughed. "In any case, my spiritual beast has already memorized your scent. Even if you hide in a cellar, I'll be able to find you. You should understand." After saying that, the man and the snake floated away and disappeared into the night. In the blink of an eye, the Kong residence, which had been incomparably noisy, like an earthquake, and where demons ran amok, had become completely silent. Only the broken walls remained, and it was incomparably desolate. One of the walls had collapsed, and half of the main door was broken. The front courtyard of the residence had basically turned into ruins. It was really unknown what Second Master Kong would think when he returned and saw such a scene. Still, all of that had nothing to do with the security guard. A fierce glint flashed in his eyes as he glanced at the hanging head of the Kong family, which was soon replaced by fear. In that brief moment, his heart was torn between heaven and man, and after struggling for who knows how long, fear finally triumphed over evil. Clenching his teeth, he slowly put down Mr. He. "Damn it! That idiot Kong has committed too many sins to provoke a demon like that. He's definitely not going to live long, so why should I hang myself on this tree? I'll send this fellow back first so that the demon doesn't come looking for trouble with me, and see if I can extort some money from the He family while I'm at it." Even as he thought that, a look of pity flashed across his eyes as he looked around. Damn it! There was no one else in the Kong residence, and it would have been wise to search for some valuables here. Still, I don't know where that idiot Kong and his concubines have hidden the money, and there's no telling if they would turn back if I spend time looking for them. Forget it, forget it. He untied the ropes around Mr. He's body. The man had already fainted because he could not beat him, and was now leaning limply on Mr. He's body. He laughed self-deprecatingly as he carried Mr. He on his back. Damn it! I never thought that I would actually do such a good deed one day. Even so, he immediately sensed that something was not right, but with his mediocre martial arts, he could not deal with such a sudden turn of events. Moments later, he felt a pain in his throat as if an iron hoop was clasped around his throat. It was actually a hand, thin but strong like an iron clamp. That was when he heard someone say in a low voice beside his ear, "Who saved me?" Mr. He almost pissed himself in fright as he cursed inwardly, deeply regretting that he did not use enough strength when he was torturing the idiot back then, which was why he woke up so quickly. Then, he cursed Sun Lang inwardly. That damned old demon really got me killed, but there was no point in cursing anyone now, so he promptly changed his expression and said obsequiously, "Mr. He, save your strength for now. I'll send you home." The iron hoop around his neck tightened once more. "Speak." It's a terrifying demon that brought a huge snake demon and broke into the Kong residence. They seem to be looking for second fool Kong. They couldn't find him, so they conveniently saved you and then left. With his life hanging by a thread, Mr. He's eloquent 3 times faster than before. He quickly explained the cause and effect of the incident. Mr. He, who had just woken up, did not seem to believe in the demon's story, but Mr. He carried him out so that he could see for himself. The once glorious and imposing Kong residence was now like the aftermath of 2 blue-eyed white dragons rolling in the sheets. It was so messy that it was as if a demolition office had been here. Mr. He was silent for a moment as if he was thinking about something. After a moment, he nodded and said, "Okay. He did not loosen his grip on Mr. He's hand. "Carry me home first. Then, I have a task for you. If you do it well, there will be plenty of benefits. Your master surnamed Kong won't be able to jump around for long. You should know what to do and know what to do." "What's your name?" "Chen Shurching." Although Xie Ague had now become a very influential big shot in Lu Town, he did not live in the town. He still lived in Weizhuang, a small village not far from Lu Town. It was said that this was his hometown, the place where he made his fortune. It could be said that it was a geomancy place for him to make a fortune. As the saying went, wealth does not return to one's hometown is like walking in silk clothes at night. He was already wearing silk clothes and directly living in the village. This kind of thinking was very easy to guess. After Second Master Kong made his fortune, he would go to Xianheng Hotel every few days to drink 2 bowls of wine and eat a plate of fennel beans with a group of short-sleeved gang members. It was nothing more than wanting to see the faces of those who looked down on him and looked down on him in the past. Thus, he could obtain a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction from the onlookers. This Xie Ague most likely had the same thought. Sun Lang knew the way. He rushed through the night and soon arrived at Weizhuang. There were many paddy fields outside the village. They reflected the starlight and the moonlight, making it bright. At this time, it was already the latter half of the night, and there was not a single light in the village. Sun Lang stood at the entrance of the village, and squinted his eyes to look around. That house is the biggest. It must be Xie Ague's house. Let's go take a look. Sure enough, there were 2 stone lions in front of the house. The 2 words, Xie Residence, were hanging high above the door. Sun Lang waved his hand. "Go, electric venomous dragon. He Xiandang, who had won a new title, rolled her eyes and activated the Snake Beauty Warrior transformation. A huge black python stretched its body and let out a terrifying hiss. The operation in the Kong mansion not long ago had given her quite a bit of combat experience, and she had learned the beginner siege skill. At this time, she directly coiled around a tree beside the Xia mansion and used an earth totem on it. With a loud bang, the main gate of the Xia mansion flew out and rushed all the way to the backyard. Sun Lang shaded his eyes with his hand and watched the two door planks smash into the backyard of the Xia residence. Then, boom! Bright fire dispelled the darkness of the night. A fireball exploded, and the explosion sent mud and tiles flying in all directions. Sun Lang blinked his eyes. Damn, what's going on? When did you learn the fire enchantment? He Xiandang was also shocked. Snakes instinctively rejected this kind of strong light and loud sound. But before she could answer, another loud sound followed. The two of them were stunned by this sudden turn of events. Before they could figure out the situation, they suddenly heard a shout coming from the direction of the backyard. Following that, dozens of fireballs swayed in the night sky, drawing a stunning arc in the sky, falling from the sky, falling into the Xia residence. The ranger bit his finger. Damn! Voldemort is attacking the city? What Voldemort? He Xiandang was still in her snake form. She stood high and could see far. Her night vision was very good. She took a closer look and said with disdain, "Those are torches. There are many people behind, and they are throwing torches in." Sun Lang was at a complete loss. What's the situation? Could it be the unruly people causing trouble? Then, he heard a loud shout from behind him. The voice was old but powerful. There's no problem in this world that a sky tremor bomb can't solve. If there is, then throw two. Today, this old man has brought all the sky tremor bombs I've bought. Children, fellow villagers, throw them in. Today, I give up this house, and I want you, Xia Agui, to die. There were indeed a lot of people gathered at the back. When they heard the words, they made a lot of noise. Then, black items of justice fell from the sky, making a series of explosions. The torches set the house ablaze, and there seemed to be a lot of items hidden in the house to ignite the fire. Fireballs kept bursting out, and the flames were like terrifying demons, devouring the house, making crackling sounds. In an instant, the night sky was lit up, and the flames soared into the sky. It was extremely conspicuous in the dark night. However, even with such a big fire, no one in the village came to save the house. It could be seen that the house owner's popularity was terrible. Clearly, the villagers are true proletarian revolutionaries. They are brave enough to fight against the evil landlord class. Sun Lang looked at the burned Xia residence. He had never seen Xia Agui before, but he had seen Kong Zhongwu. If Xia Agui's martial arts were on par with that of Kong Zhongwu, he would definitely not be able to escape the sea of fire. But He Xiandang stared at the burning camp for a moment and suddenly said, "There's no one inside." Sun Lang nodded. "Shoo, don't make a fuss. Let's wait for a while and see how things develop." Chapter 257. This is really strange, one thing after another. He wanted to go to Kong Mansion to catch Kong Zhongwu, but he found out that the other party had already run away. After that, he rushed to Weizhuang to look for Xia Agui, but he encountered a class struggle to overthrow the feudal landlord. Two actions, but both of them caused problems. Was the fire in Weizhuang an accident, or was it part of the enemy's conspiracy? Sun Lang stood outside the Xia manor, feeling the rolling heat coming from the front. Regardless of whether this fire was a conspiracy or a coincidence, the person involved, Xia Agui, was not at the scene of the fire. This was enough to explain some of the problems. The crux of this matter was that Xia Agui was not at home. Was it to avoid him, or was it to avoid the people who set the fire? Just as he was thinking about what to do next, he heard the old man behind him shouting, Everyone, spread out and surround this place. It's better to be safe than sorry. Don't let this thief take the opportunity to escape. The people responded aggressively, and not long after, Sun Lang saw a group of human soldiers with pitchforks and hoes. They shouted with great enthusiasm and surrounded the burning Xie mansion, loudly scolding Xie Ague for his sins. It looked like the FFF group was enforcing the law. Sun Lang did not hide, so he bumped into the people who rushed over. The other party saw someone standing in front of the Xie mansion. Naturally, they were shocked, but when they found out that this guy was not Xie Ague, they were a little relieved. They waved their weapons and threatened, "You! Who are you? What are you doing here in the middle of the night? Let's go." The ranger thought for a moment and made up his mind. He stepped forward and said, "Everyone! My surname is Zhou, first name is Sun, known as Sun, a herring fruit user, one of the 3 ninjas of Konoha, known as the Winter Sun Snow Melting Technique, Horse Step Alliance Technique, Shaoli Flying Dagger, Sankai Huanjin Palm, the Guardian of Yangqing, the Friend of Nechthys." A country bumpkin had never seen the world. How could he remember so many nicknames that he didn't understand? The leader waved his pitchfork, but seeing that Sun Lang was a man of Jianghu, he didn't dare to be rude and shouted, "Don't talk nonsense. What are you doing here?" Sun Lang's face was full of righteousness, just like those hot-blooded young heroes who wielded their swords in Jianghu. His eyes shone with the brilliance of a righteous partner as he said, "To tell you the truth, I've been traveling around the world with a sword on my back. When I arrived at Lu Town, I heard that there are 2 major disasters in this town. One of them is the evil Kong Zhongwu, and the other is Xie Ague, who has committed all kinds of evil deeds. My goodness, he even gave me a nickname." When the villagers heard what he said, their hostility dissipated a little. A common enemy could always shorten the distance between them. However, why didn't King come earlier? We all risked our lives to come and burn Xie Ague in the middle of the night. After we were done, you jumped out to punish the evildoers? Thinking of this, everyone's mood became bad again. Some people even lowered their heads, and a cold light flashed in their eyes. Today, it was old Master Zhao who took the lead to burn Xie Ague. He had planned it for several months, and everyone had put their bloody handprints on it. They wanted to do something big together. Even if Xie Ague deserved to die, it was not a good thing to set fire and kill people. Originally, everyone had a good agreement. Since they were all family, it was easy to unify their statement. Anyway, Xie Ague did deserve to die. Old Master Zhao also promised that every family would get money after the incident. As long as everyone said that Xie Ague set fire to himself, it would be useless even if the government came. However, they didn't expect that this kid would bump into them. If he went outside and talked nonsense, wouldn't it be? Among the villagers, there were a few who were strong and had seen the world. They exchanged glances and were ready to make a move. Since things had come to this, they couldn't let this outsider ruin their plan. They might as well go all the way. Sun Lang pretended not to see it and cupped his hands in salute. As the saying goes, those who are unjust are doomed to destruction. I was planning to rush into the Xie family and cut down Xie Ague with my sword, but I didn't expect to have come here in vain. But fortunately, everyone has helped me to take care of this evil creature. The green mountains will not change and the green water will continue to flow. I will take my leave now and chase after Kong Zhongwu. That guy ran away quickly this time, but it won't be so easy next time. Kong Zhongwu's name caused a commotion among the villagers. Those who were ready to make a move were also shocked. If there was any big news these days, it would spread all over the village within a few days. Everyone had heard of this second Master Kong, who rose to fame as quickly as Xie Ague. Someone asked, "Could it be that young hero has looked for second Master Kong?" "Yes." Sun Lang smiled proudly. "I used 3 realms Huanjin Palm and split open the door of his house. There was a fierce battle inside and it was really earth-shattering. Kong Zhongwu was the only one who escaped. What a pity, what a pity! He Xian was rolling her eyes at the side. She was still angry, but she didn't dare to say anything. She was the one who put in the effort and took the blame. Why did it become your fault when you were bragging? Everyone couldn't tell if it was true or false. They didn't dare to act rashly. At this moment, an old but excited voice came from behind. It was the old man who was commanding the FFF ceremony. He clapped his hands and praised loudly. Good! 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 Young hero, punishing evil and killing one in 10 steps. You have the style of an ancient hero. You are really admirable. This old man, Zhao Si, is here to greet you. Sun Lang looked at the man with the help of the firelight. He had white hair and a healthy face. He had a strong body and a white beard. He looked like an old gentleman. Judging from his tone, he should be the old man who had lost his family business to Xia Ague. It seemed that the old man was the one who set Xia Ague on fire. The ranger looked at the old man and immediately showed a fake smile. Old man, you don't have to be so courteous. I am a great hero who serves the country and the people. This is what I should do. Good, good. Young but not arrogant. Humble and self-conceited. Young hero, you have a bright future ahead of you. This old man is old, but I can still see such a young hero. My life is not in vain. The old man's face was full of admiration. He looked like the village chief who was guiding the young hero to fight the devil. He took a few steps forward and said excitedly, Young hero, please accept this old man's kowtow for getting rid of this evil for my Weizhuang. After saying that, the old man actually knelt down and kowtowed. Sun Lang waited for the old man to kneel down and kowtow to the ground. Only then did he step forward with a shocked expression and help the old man up. He put on a helpless expression and said, Wait, old man, where did this come from? The one who burned Xia Ague to death was not me. It was obviously everyone. You are wrong. Xia Ague was not burned to death. Old Master Zhao said loudly, It's obvious that you, young hero Zhou, hated this person so much that you came in with your sword to punish him. You killed this scoundrel in his home, and then burned the Xia family to the ground. Everything was so clean now. Young hero Zhou, you got rid of evil for the people and helped our Weizhuang vent our anger. You are really a true hero. We, the common people, are grateful for this for 5 years. Young hero Zhou was startled at first. Then, anger appeared on his face and he said, Old man, you are wrong. Although I am not talented, I am not a liar. Forgive me for not accepting the honor of killing Xia Ague. When I do things, 1 is 1, 2 is 2. If I can't kill Xia Ague, killing Kong Zhongwu will be the same. Young hero. At this moment, the old man suddenly screamed and knelt on the ground again. He grabbed Sun Lang's hand and said, Please have mercy on the hundreds of lives in our Weizhuang. Among the villagers, there were some clever ones who had already understood the old man's plan. They could not help but admire the old man's wit. He was indeed a scholar and an official, so they pulled the people around them and knelt down as well. They shouted, Young hero, please have mercy on the hundreds of lives in our Weizhuang. One after another, people came back to their senses and knelt on the ground. Anyway, they had to kneel when they saw officials, masters, and ancestors. They had to kneel more than 10 times a year. If they could completely solve the trouble of Xia Ague's matter this time, there was no harm in kneeling. It was better than kneeling in the yamen. Some people who were too stupid to understand saw their companions kneeling around them. Their knees went soft and they also knelt down. Thus, the villagers all knelt down and shouted in unison, Young hero, please have mercy on the hundreds of lives in Weizhuang. Young hero Zhou seemed to be completely confused. He said helplessly, What are you doing? Everyone, please get up, please get up. He Xiandang was hiding behind a tree. He leaned against the trunk and watched the show in confusion. When he heard young hero Zhou's words, he curled his lips and thought, "Please get up. You should go and help them up." The old man waited for a while, but Sun Lang did not come to help him. He only heard Sun Lang pacing left and right. "You? What are you doing? Villagers, please explain. Little brats who have never seen the world. Are you scared by this?" He still maintained his kneeling position and said in a sorrowful voice, "To be honest, young hero, these days, Xia Ague has been harming the villagers even more. We couldn't stand it anymore and took the risk because we couldn't stand it anymore. I know this is arson and murder. It's against the law. It's reasonable that you don't want to take responsibility." Young hero Zhou said angrily, "Who's afraid of the government? Why would I care about a bunch of good-for-nothings? It's just that I've always been magnanimous. If it's not my work, why would I accept it?" Yes. Young hero, you're a noble person. It's just that," the old man said sadly, "the investigation by the government is secondary. We've already discussed it. When the time comes, we'll just say that the Xia family is on fire and cover it up. It's just that Xia Ague usually has some shady friends in the pugilistic world. Those people are really capable. If they know the truth or come to disturb us, those murderers are inhumane. I'm afraid that if something goes wrong, our village will never have a day of peace again. Maybe the lives of hundreds of people in this village will be at stake." He said sorrowfully, "Young hero, you said that these murderers want to stand up for Xia Ague and come to trouble us, the common people. How can we cover it up?" Young hero Zhou said angrily, "A bunch of scoundrels. How dare they?" Hearing this, old Zhao lowered his head and revealed a deep smile. He had fallen into the trap. At the same time, Sun Lang stood in front of the burning Xia residence. He lowered his head and looked at the crowd kneeling before him. A smile appeared on his face. "Idiot, good acting." Chapter 258. The Jianghu Wanderer brothers soon had a cordial meeting with the squire old Master Zhao, and they reached a consensus of friendly cooperation and communication. A Beethoven deal that was not known to outsiders was thus completed. In close negotiations, young hero Zhou expressed that he always insisted on taking the blame for himself and fighting for his plane. He opposed unscrupulous speculation and fabrication of fact. However, considering the difficulties faced by the working people of Weizhuang, he was appropriately flexible and actively adjusted. For the fundamental interests of the working people, he tearfully accepted the honor that did not belong to him and admitted that he had killed Xia Ague, the tyrant of Weizhuang, just to ensure that the people of Weizhuang would not be retaliated against. "I am using my own way to protect my beloved Weizhuang." Sun Lang held Elder Zhao's hand with tears in his eyes during the cordial conversation with the representative of the people of Weizhuang, fourth Mr. Zhao, expressing his position and attitude. Elder Zhao looked at the burning Xia family. The fire seemed to be burning for a long time, so he kindly invited young hero Zhou to his house to rest. When the fire was extinguished at dawn, he would find Xia Ague's body and deal with it. Sun Lang immediately agreed and expressed his vision of sharing joy with the people. He also promised that he would never touch the needles and thread in Elder Zhao's house. He Xian Dang followed Sun Lang into the room in a daze. The maid lit the lamp and left after a bow. Sun Lang sat on the soft bed and stretched. Just in time to catch up on sleep, the Snake Beauty frowned. "That old man is up to no good." The ranger took off his shoes and turned over to lie on the bed. He stretched his body and smiled. "Nonsense, you obviously want me to be the scapegoat. Motherf asterisk cur, old ruffians from the countryside, you want to show off your acting skills with me? Today, I will beat you at your own game and teach you how to fall down hard. Anyway, you should take the opportunity to rest. When the Xia family is finished burning and the fire is extinguished, they will find that Xia Ague did not die in the fire. Then they will be busy." He Xian Dang did not understand and nodded. Then he looked around. Where am I going to sleep?" Sun Lang immediately grabbed the blanket and tightly held it in front of his chest. He cautiously moved back a few times on the bed. You better not come up. The snake had been with Master Lu for some time, so it still had the most basic sense of shame. It spat at Master Lu's words. Master specifically told me not to let you take advantage of me. She told me that if you dare to mess around and do this to me, I'll suddenly turn back into my original form when you're most absorbed in it. Sun Lang imagined it for a moment. With a lewd smile on his face, he pressed this naturally seductive banshee under his body, enjoying her exquisite figure, soft waist, and supple skin. Suddenly, she turned into a black, thick, long, and F***king flexible pillar. That kind of feeling was more complicated than F***king a dog good. Fortunately, Bai Suzhen was kind. Otherwise, Su Xian would be finished. He felt a chill run down his spine. Although he had no interest in this snake monster, he still wanted to accuse and condemn Master Lu's vicious heart. Sun Lang cast a sideways glance at the snake monster, who seemed to be very proud of himself. As a man, how should he arrange the sleeping arrangements when a man and a woman were in the same room? A man like a beast would suggest that the two of them sleep on the same bed. A man worse than a beast would suggest that the woman sleep on the bed and he sleep on the floor. As a man among men, Sun Lang lay on the bed and said matter-of-factly, "You sleep on the floor. Don't show your original form, don't snore, and don't grind your teeth. Otherwise, I'll throw you into the pot to cook soup." He Xian Dang felt that something was wrong. However, Sun Lang's abuse of power was not something a small banshee could resist. She snorted and took out a long rope from her sleeve. Sun Lang sucked in a breath of cold air. "As a snake, you actually like this? I'm warning you, don't mess around. I'm not that kind of person. I won't accept such a low-level job. It doesn't suit my identity as a Super S Gold level trainer. If you want me to provide S&M service, you'll have to prepare candles, balls, whips, beads, and collars. You're saying things I don't understand again." He Xian Dang snorted and tied the rope to the two pillars. Then, with a light leap, he nimbly lay down on the long rope. His body was as soft as a snake, as if he had no bones, tightly wrapped around the rope. His round and slender thighs, his slender and beautiful arms, and his soul-stirring waist. All of this, in Sun Lang's eyes, was like dung. He could see but not touch, he could smell but not eat. What use was there for a hammer? So, he rolled his eyes. "What kind of Xiaolong Nu are you cosplaying? Don't you know that as a dragon, she has a total of 2 generations of pilots? Oh, almost 3 generations. In some classical wuxia genre reworks, this number is even higher." So noisy." The banshee mumbled. Go to sleep, go to sleep. You're really a human. If it weren't for the fact that you're always saying things I don't understand, you'd be quite pleasing to the eye. What does a small banshee like you know?" Sun Lang lay on the bed and looked up at the beam. He said lightly, "Some things, if you don't talk about it often, you'll slowly forget. Forgetting is habitual. Gradually, you'll forget more and more until you forget your hometown and where you came from. However, the worst thing is that the new world won't accept you. Forget it, why am I telling you this? I won't lower myself to the same level as a banshee. Good night." He waved his hand and an extremely slender sword chi swept past silently. With a snap, it cut off the banshee Dang's rope. With a squeak, He Xian Dang fell to the ground and pounced on a big rabbit. "It hurts." The banshee Dang clearly didn't know what had happened. What happened? Why did the rope break? Sun Lang mumbled, so noisy. Go to sleep, go to sleep. You banshee Dang, always making such a mess of things." He Xian Dang snorted and tied the rope again. First, he carefully tested it a few times. After finding that there was no problem, he lay down. Squeak. "Sure enough, it's you who's playing tricks. So noisy, go to sleep. Don't make a sound." Humph! Squeak! The next morning, the sky was already bright. Normally, the villagers would have already done their work and gone home to eat. However, today, most of the people in the village weren't in the mood to work in the fields because something big had happened in the village last night. The village was only so big, so it didn't take long for everyone to leave. Soon, everyone knew what had happened. The matter was very simple. Last night, everyone had gone together to set a fire and burned that arrogant and domineering Sia Ague to death. At the same time, he also found a young and inexperienced lad to be the scapegoat, coaxing him to take the blame for killing Sia Ague. The plan was perfect. When dawn came, he would send people to spread the news that a peerless young hero had killed Sia Ague overnight and then burned down the Sia family. Whether it was the investigation by the government or Jiang Hu seeking revenge, everyone would focus on Zhou Sun. The men, women, and children in the Zhuang family were all innocent. After the fire was extinguished at dawn, old Master Zhao led people to dig up Sia Ague's body and fiddle with it as early as possible. Whether it was destroying the body or fabricating evidence, they would do it beautifully. Then, they would bribe the coroner and confirm that it was a Jianghu vendetta. In this way, young hero Zhou would gain fame, the government office would get bribed, old Master Zhao would take back his family property, and the villagers would also get the payment for their hard work and rent-free promise from the old master. Everyone would benefit. This was the so-called win-win situation. However, this seemingly flawless plan encountered a fatal flaw from the very beginning. This Ague, damn it, this forgetful bastard. How could he not be at home last night? At that time, the sun had just risen and it was not warm. When old Master Zhao heard that he had not found Sia Ague's body after searching for 2 to 4 hours, he immediately felt as if he had drunk Sprite. The sun was not poisonous at all, but his body swayed and he felt that he was going to faint. Damn it, the Sia family that was burned down last night was actually my house. It was Sia Ague who took it from me. In order to burn this forgetful bastard to death, I even sacrificed my own house. How could you tell me that Ague slipped out last night? Not in the house? He immediately thought of Sia Ague's methods, his martial arts, his Jianghu friends, and his shrewd methods. He could not help but shiver. What happened last night had thoroughly offended Ague. The crime of destroying his family and killing people was a crime that would not be forgiven until one of them was dead. With Sia Ague's arrogant personality, how could he let it go so easily? He must have extremely vicious means. Perhaps he had already known all of this and slipped out of the house in advance. Then, he ran to the town or the county to complain to old Master Zhao. This was also unknown. The villagers who came with old Master Zhao to dig up the body looked at each other. They could imagine the shock and fear in their hearts. However, they did not panic. That young hero Zhou from last night. Master Zhao seemed to have grasped onto a life-saving straw. He brought a group of people and rushed back home. No matter what, Sia Ague was not burned to death at home. This matter had put them in a passive position. At this time, the biggest hope to break this deadlock was on this hot-headed young hero, who was so naive that he was almost cute. He ordered his family to leave, tidied his clothes, and with the most perfect smile, he took a few steps forward and knocked on the door of young hero Zhou and his maid. Young hero Zhou's unhurried voice sounded from inside. "Hello, I don't need to clean up, don't need special clothes, and don't need breakfast. Damn it, does this guy really think he is a master?" However, Mr. Zhao was a flexible person. He said softly, "Young hero, did you rest well last night?" Oh, it's old master. Hurry up and open the door. Don't sleep anymore." A moment later, young hero Zhou's fairy-like female companion opened the door. Her beautiful figure and stunning appearance made even old Master Zhao, who was already powerless, feel a stagnation in his chest and a heat in his lower abdomen. This beauty's clothes were slightly messy, and her eyes were drowsy, as if she hadn't slept well. Sun Lang, who walked out, had a ruddy complexion, as if he had completed the great harmony of his life. All of this made the Zhao clan patriarch curse in his heart. Damn it, he really knows how to cause trouble. Chapter 259. The sizable Xie mansion had already been burned to the ground. At this moment, old Master Zhao's heart throbbed with pain as he looked at the familiar place that had been burned beyond recognition. Damn it, this is my house. In order to burn Xie Ague to death, I even sacrificed this. Damn it, he's not here. Sun Lang led the way into the fire. There was still some residual heat inside, and the smell of smoke and fire assaulted their noses. Fourth Master Zhao also followed in. When he smelled the smell, he couldn't help but cover his mouth and nose. The ranger looked at him strangely. "Old mister, what's wrong?" Fourth Master Zhao said in a muffled voice. "Young hero, please forgive me. I don't like the smell of smoke, eh?" Sun Lang was surprised. "Don't you like to eat barbecue?" Old mister was puzzled. "I don't like it. Young hero, why do you ask?" Sun Lang was even more surprised. "Aren't you Fourth Master Zhao? How can Fourth Master Zhao not like barbecue?" "Damn it, I'm Fourth Master Zhao and I like to eat barbecue. Is there a connection between these two? Is there something wrong with your head?" The ranger didn't bother with this question anymore. He looked at the burned house and looked around. "No bodies? Did you find any secret passageways?" "No bodies." Old Mr. Zhao sighed. "No secret passages. I've searched all the cellars and even brought the village's fierce dogs, but I didn't find any clues." Sun Lang pretended to know the answer. "How do you know there are no secret passages?" At the mention of this, Fourth Elder Zhao's heart twitched. This house was originally my ancestral property, but it was snatched away by Xie Ague. Thus, I know where to hide people and where to build secret passages." The ranger was shocked. "Then you burned it? What should we do? If you die one day, won't your ancestors beat you to death?" "You brat, your mouth is really annoying." However, he still had a favor to ask of others. It could be considered a seller's market. Old Mr. Zhao gritted his teeth and bowed down. "Young hero, please have mercy on our lives." Sun Lang was startled and took 2 steps back. He waved his hand and said, No, I can't control this. Your dead father and dead grandfather, as well as your dead ancestors, are angry with you. They want to appear in your dreams and take you to the underworld to give you a big slap. This is a matter of course. Even if I wanted to stop the fight and save you, I have the will but not the power. After all, you really deserve a beating. Good fellow, you even dare to burn the house of your ancestors. Was this bastard doing this on purpose? Old Master Zhao gritted his teeth and looked up, only to see young hero Zhou's troubled and sincere expression, as if he was really worried about something like, "If Zhao Ci's ancestor slaps him, should I persuade him or not?" What a dilemma! His expression was so sincere, and his eyes were so moving, without a single flaw. Old Master Zhao observed him with the experience and insight of a man who had lived for 60 or 70 years, and came to a conclusion. Was he really worried about this matter? Was he really that stupid? Damn it! No wonder he came to find Xie Ague in the middle of the night. He was a fool, old Mr. Zhao cursed in his heart. He shook his head with a bitter face. "It's not about our ancestors. It's about Xie Ague. Since he's not dead and found out that his house was burned, how could he let us go?" Sun Lang came to a sudden realization. Then, he smiled excitedly. "Oh right. He's not dead yet. That's great. Xie Ague's not dead yet. The heavens have eyes. Eyes my ass. I burned down my house and didn't burn that bastard to death. What kind of eyes is that?" Old man Zhao cursed in his heart, but he had to keep a smile on his face. Yes. Congratulations, young hero. You finally have the chance to kill this evil man with your own hands. Sun Lang nodded and said proudly, "All right, village chief, I'll accept this quest. Crusade against the evil Xie Ague, right? Don't worry, I'll set off now. Let me tell you, I'm a top player. This kind of small quest is as easy as pie. In less than half a month, I'll be able to make Xie Ague change sides and surrender. Wait. You want to leave? If you leave just like that, who am I going to use as a scapegoat? 10 days to half a month? If you ran for 10 days to half a month and Xie Ague came back to make a scene, the blood on my neck would have turned cold long ago." Old Master Zhao quickly got up and grabbed Sun Lang's sleeve. With a bitter face, he said, "Young hero, please wait. This Xie Ague has escaped without a trace. Where are you going to find him? We need to think of a plan. We can't let him escape. I have a plan. Young hero, please announce to the public that you burned down Xie Ague's house." Sun Lang shook his head and said in a low voice, "To be honest, 2 years ago, I was permanently expelled from the regiment. Although I explained it many times, my former comrades believed that I had betrayed the organization, because they believed that a virgin could not have the strength that I had. I felt very sad. The FFF group has become my eternal regret. I've already sworn that I will never use the power of fire again. F***CK, what kind of mess is this?" Fourth Elder Zhao was anxious and patiently said, "This is just a plan, a plan. Think about it. You said that you burned down Xie Ague's house, and even called him out by name to challenge him. Xie Ague is now a person who cares about face. How could he swallow this humiliation? Naturally, he will come looking for you. This way, young hero, you won't have to waste any time and effort to find him." Young hero Zhou thought for a while and nodded. He smiled and said, "That makes sense. I was worried about not being able to find Xie Ague. Since that's the case, let him come himself." As so smooth? This brat was really stupid to the extreme. How did he survive until now? Fourth Elder Zhao's face was full of smiles, but he snorted coldly in his heart. He then bowed and said, "If that's the case, this old man will send people to Lu Town and all the villages to spread the name of young hero Zhou." Before Sun Lang could say anything, they suddenly heard a commotion coming from outside. The two of them felt strange and left the rubble of the ruins. Looking into the distance, they saw a group of people on horseback, beating gongs and drums, carrying several boxes of heavy gift. They were leading cows and goats, wearing red and colored clothes, and playing a loud Swana tune. They were walking towards the Wei Manor. Old Mr. Zhao squinted and looked for a while. His eyes flashed with surprise. "This is the head of the He family in Lu Town, Mr. He Chunlai. What is he doing here?" Sun Lang's eyes flashed with a smile. He blinked. "He said that he was going to Lu Town so loudly last night. It would be strange if he didn't find him. He said very innocently, 'I've never heard of him. Who is he?'" Old Mr. Zhao seemed to want to explain the He family's social status in Lu Town. The people there had already noticed the two of them. They saw the head of the He family get off his horse and rush over. His face was full of gratitude and his expression was sincere. He rushed in front of Sun Lang and kowtowed without hesitation. He kneeled even more neatly than old Mr. Zhao did last night. "Greetings, benefactor." Sun Lang looked very surprised at first. Then, he suddenly realized. He pointed at the head of the He family and said, "It's you. You're the one who was hung at home and beaten like a dead pig by Kong Zhongwu last night." When the head of the He family heard, "It's you," he showed a grateful expression and nodded. He didn't expect that there would be another sentence. When he heard it clearly, he couldn't stop nodding. Thus, he successfully became a dead pig that was hung and beaten. Wasn't this King embarrassing? However, the head of the He family was obviously a dirty person. He quickly hid the anger that flashed in his eyes and still kowtowed. "I'm ashamed to be saved by benefactor. Last night, benefactor was awe-inspiring. You caused havoc in the Kong family and smashed half of the Kong family. You were really invincible. Today, the whole town of Lu Town was shocked. They all praised you and said that you are a good man who upholds justice on behalf of heaven. Sun Lang was shocked. Praise? What kind of king praise is that? The ancient people wouldn't use such vulgar and direct words. Everyone called this game bamboo flute in the bamboo forest. It sounded very elegant. Anyway, the head of the He family didn't understand Sun Lang's slang. He clasped his hands and said sincerely, in short, everyone praised Benefactor as a young hero. Today, I came here to thank you for saving my life. Secondly, he kowtowed again and said loudly, last night, Benefactor carried out justice on behalf of the heavens. Unfortunately, Kong Zhongwu was so lucky that he managed to escape. Today, I'm here to ask Benefactor to uphold justice and eliminate all evil. Kill Kong Zhongwu and return Lu Town to its former glory. Mr. Zhao's expression changed. He Chunlai, so you're here to steal my scapegoat. He coughed and said, Mr. He, young hero Zhou has already made an agreement with me to help Wei Zhuang get rid of Xiaogui. Everything has to be done first serve. You have to wait, first come, first served? He Chunlai smiled proudly. Speaking of first come, first served, Benefactor smashed the Kong family's house last night and then came to Wei Zhuang. Speaking of first come, first serve, you have to kill Kong Zhongwu first. No, kill Xiaogui first. Young hero Zhou has already promised me. The two glared at each other and looked like they were about to fight. At this time, the pure and kind, smart and brave, righteous and honest young hero Zhou separated the two. Don't fight, don't fight. Upholding justice on behalf of heaven, you have to abide by the basic law. Fourth, Mr. Zhao asked. Then, young hero Zhou, which one do you want to help first? That's not right. These two things can be considered as one. Sun Lang shook his finger. Kong Zhongwu and Xiaogui are both big scourges. Let's think of a way to get rid of them together. Won't that solve the problem? This idea was unanimously approved by the two present. He Chunlai asked, Benefactor, what's the plan? Sun Lang smiled deeply. Listen to me slowly, the squire of Wei Zhuang, fourth Mr. Zhao, and He Chunlai of Lu Town's He family were both well-known figures in the area. They were experienced and astute. Their eyes flashed with coldness and mockery as they looked at the hot-blooded and foolish young man in front of them. In this day and age, martial arts were not as useful as brains. No matter how strong one's martial arts were, if one was stupid, they would only be a knife in someone else's hand, just like the young man in front of them. However, they did not know that this hot-blooded young man was also coldly watching their performance. You two idiots, since you've fallen into my hands, you should obediently smash your heads into the walls of 100 Herb Garden for me. Watch how I play you to death. Chapter 260. When Sun Lang was telling his wonderful plan to the two squires, a few strange people quietly appeared in a dilapidated temple 5 miles south of Lu Town. A tall man with a sallow complexion carried a steel fork and walked into the temple unhurriedly. He wore a tattered felt hat and thin clothes, and his chest was bare. He looked like an ordinary farmer, but he was clearly not a farmer, and this trip was not to farm. The man came to the front of the temple and said in a low and dull voice, "Is everyone here?" In the temple, a woman's voice responded, "The old lady hasn't come yet." As soon as the voice fell, a sharp laugh came from the other side of the temple. Who said I haven't come yet? Ha ha, a 30 or 40-year-old widow is not as sensitive as me, an old woman who has lived long enough. It's really getting worse with each generation. The old woman came out from the corner, waving an iron palm leaf fan in one hand and a scale in the other. She slowly stepped into the temple and looked around. Demons, monsters, useful, useless, damned, not dead, they are all here. Why are they all here today? Who do you want to deal with? The farmer stepped into the temple with her and frowned when he heard the words, 9 Caddy's old lady, don't talk too much. The people in the temple were like the untouchables in the marketplace of the empire. A woman with a decent appearance and a good figure was wearing a linen morning dress. Her face was thin and her eyes were red. It seemed that she had just cried. At this time, she was leaning against a pillar in the temple with her head down. Between her slightly rough hands, there were circles of thin cotton threads. They were like living creatures, jumping and changing in her hands, forming beautiful patterns. There were elephants, birds, flowers, and more of them were small people. If this was in the streets and alleys of the town, the flower rope would be regarded as a divine skill by the children. But the farmer knew that the seemingly fragile white cotton thread had passed through many people's necks and easily cut their skulls. The woman named fourth sister-in-law Dan was actually a very pitiful person. However, who wasn't the same among the people present. Since when was there a lack of pitiful people in this world? The other woman in the room was in a much worse state than Dan's sister-in-law. Her clothes were tattered and she looked like a beggar. Her hair was messy and her eyes were empty. At this moment, she was staring at the little figure on the cotton thread in the widow's hand. She was lost in thought and muttered, "If my Mao was still here, he would be this big now, old beggar, a lunatic like a wolf." She married Hudong's tyrannical blade, He Laolu, but her husband died first, and then her child died. She's a complete lunatic. In addition, there was also a thin and weak young man wearing a thick jacket. He was shivering and coughing softly. He looked unwell, but his lips were unexpectedly bright red. When he saw the farmer and the old lady come in, he subconsciously stuck out his bright red tongue and licked his lips, revealing an unfriendly smile. Hua Xiaoshuan, who suffered from a strange disease, had to be suppressed with fresh and warm human blood. After biting his parents to death, he still went crazy. Wow! The old granny waved her palm leaf fan and looked at the 5 people in the temple. Birth, old age, illness, death, love and separation. There are also those 2 who made a fortune. I think the 8 distresses are about to be gathered. The widow didn't raise her head and said softly, "I heard that the candidates for the 5 essences have been found." The thin and weak young man also said slowly, "What about the resentment society and the unattainable desire? I heard that their family was in trouble last night. The higher-ups specially ordered them to leave home to avoid the disaster." The farmer seemed to be the leader of this small group. He said in a low voice, "I got the news that they left last night and there was no news. They must have escaped. We have to catch them back." These words made the others widen their eyes. The strange silence lasted for a moment. The old lady laughed shrilly and said, "These 2 bastards, they don't have the guts and ran away? They want to run away after getting benefits? They really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Young people nowadays can't even keep their promises. Bandits, I've lived to the age of 79. I've lived enough. I just can't stand these people who don't abide by the rules." Her words did not resonate with anyone. In fact, to these people, the so-called promise was worth 1,000 gold. It was a very distant and strange thing. That was the promise of a hero, not them. After all, they were just a group of dead souls stained with blood and sunk into the sea of suffering. They had signed a contract with the devil and couldn't be free. The farmer broke the silence. "The higher-ups have already determined that these 2 are escaped traitors. They need to be arrested immediately." "The 5 of us together?" the young man said weakly. "Against the 2 of them? The higher-ups think too highly of them." "Don't make meaningless guesses and tests," the farmer said calmly. "Because the higher-ups have given a death order. We want them alive." The widow's hands shook, and the cotton in her hands twisted and turned into a lifelike tiger. She raised her head and said sadly, "Birth, old age, illness, death, love, separation, resentment, unattainment, 5 aggregates. The 8 hardships of life seem to correspond to the 8 of us. We didn't know any kung fu before, our fates were different, and we didn't know each other. Why are we gathered together and given kung fu? Even if we want to catch traitors, we need them alive? The remaining 3 people all looked at the farmer. They all knew that this man was the leader. His position and background were the most suspicious and complicated. If there was anyone who could solve their confusion, it would be him. The farmer still didn't change his expression. He said blankly, "When you chose to accept the power because of your own desires and hardships, you didn't talk so much nonsense." The young man said lightly, "It's not nonsense. We just want to know the meaning and value of our existence. Naturally, it's to serve the master. This is the deal we agreed on at the beginning." The farmer said coldly, "There's no need to ask anything else. Whatever the master wants us to do, we will do. Tools don't need to have self-awareness. Lackey, I just can't stand spineless puppets like you." The old woman flashed her palm leaf fan and said bluntly, "What are you looking at? I'm 79 years old. I've lived long enough. I'll say whatever I want to say. The villagers raise dogs to guard the house, not to kill them for meat. We just want to know. The higher-ups are feeding us such a big fat piece of meat. Do they want us to bite people or eat our meat? It seems that Kong Zhongwu and Xia Agui's defection has also given you some ideas." The farmer was silent for a moment and said slowly, "I also don't know what the higher-ups want to do. I also want to know what the higher-ups want. But what is clear is that the 2 of them must have known something. Let's find them and see what they have to say." Fourth sister-in-law Dan said in a hoarse voice, "Can we trust you?" The farmer looked calm. "I'm also human. I also have times when I lose my rationality. I also have times when I regret things." The youth straightened up and swept his gaze over the farmer's neck. He narrowed his eyes and said, "Then what are we waiting for? Where are we going to catch those 2? They don't dare to run far. Once they leave Lu Town, they will die without a burial ground." The farmer said coldly, "The higher-ups ordered us to immediately rush to the 100-herb garden and wait patiently. Once we find the 2 of them, we will begin to arrest them." "That's it." The youth was stunned. Why did the 2 of them go to the 100-herb garden? How did the higher-ups determine that they would go to the 100-herb garden? "I don't know. The higher-ups did pass down such an order. We just have to follow it." The surprise on the youth's face disappeared. After a long silence, he let out a long sigh. "Don't you feel that we've been living like puppets for the past few years? When the higher-ups move a finger, we obediently appear in a certain place. At the right time, we do the right thing. We don't need to think, we only need to kill? I've had this feeling for a long time." "What, the arena?" The way Fourth Master Zhao and Patriarch, he looked at Sun Lang, was as if they were looking at an idiot who had jumped out of a novel. "Yes, the Lu Town First Martial Arts Tournament." Young hero Zhou raised his finger and said seriously, "We will set up the life and death arena in the town and list all of Kong Zhongwu's and Xia Agui's crimes. Then, we will publicly challenge them. We will use the huge pressure of public opinion and the working people's mentality to force these 2 scum to stand up and compete with me. At that time..." He looked up to the sky and laughed. "Under the ardent expectations of the people of Lu Town, this young hero will turn the tide and kill these 2 villains in the arena. Then, the country will be safe and the people will be happy. Isn't that perfect?" "Perfect my ass." The 2 of them looked at each other. They both felt that this idea was a little ridiculous, and there was also a subtle sense of shame. Fourth Elder Zhao hesitated. "Young hero, we should discuss it again. What? You think it's troublesome? You think it's too big of a deal? You think it's too expensive?" Young hero Zhou's face immediately changed. He turned around and was about to leave. "Then you should find someone else. Young hero, please stay. Young hero, please stay." Now that things had come to this, how could they let this simple-minded scapegoat run away? The 2 of them hurriedly pulled Sun Lang back, but this little brat clenched his teeth and insisted on setting up the arena. No matter what they said, he would not budge. Fight in the arena! Fight in the arena! Sun Lang pointed at their noses and said resentfully, "Isn't this a typical symbol of wuxia culture? How can you not be like this? Let me tell you, there is no problem that can't be solved by a challenge tournament. Let's not talk about wuxia. Look at the fantasy school. A challenge tournament can F***king create a huge plot. Look at Dragon Ball. How many stories can this world-first martial arts tournament tell? Look at it again." The two of them felt dizzy. They didn't understand, but it was a seller's market after all. Although the only designated scapegoat had made such a difficult request, for the sake of the overall situation, they had to agree even if they didn't want to. Chunlai and Zhao Laosi looked at each other and a cold light flashed in their eyes. They nodded tacitly and made up their minds at the same time. "Damn you, no matter whether you killed Xie Ague and Kong Zhongwu or not, I will turn you into a thief who burned down the Xie family and attacked the Kong family at night." But no matter how hard they cursed, Master He and Master Zhao Laosi had to hold their noses and send people to prepare to go to Baru Town to discuss the crusade against the unscrupulous bullies Xie Ague and Kong Zhongwu. The division of labor was very clear. Master Zhao Laosi was the squire of the surrounding villages. He sent people to the surrounding villages to spread the news of young hero Zhou's challenge to cutting Ba to Kong and Xie. Chunlai ordered people to set up a challenge tournament. Sun Lang watched the two of them start to work. He glanced at the crowd and suddenly asked, "Dead pig? Oh no, Mr. He, where is the security guard who dragged you home last night?" Chunlai's heart trembled. He smiled calmly and said, "Is it that Chen Shirqing? Young hero, don't worry. I clearly distinguish between kindness and hatred. He was asked by you to send me home. How could I make things difficult for him? I gave him some money and sent him away. My family can testify to this. If you don't believe me, I will send people to find." Sun Lang waved his hand hypocritically and said, "How can I not believe Mr. He? It's just a casual question. That person is just a street thug. How can he be worthy of being asked by you?" Chunlai also smiled. "A small person. Don't worry about it." The power of capital was very great, and the power of the country gentry was also very great. The combination of capitalism and feudalism had great power. In a short period of time, the explosive news spread throughout the surrounding villages. Sun Lang and the others returned to Lu Town. A fighting ring had been set up on the public land that was usually used to invite people to perform in the Pear Garden or to hold birthday parties at home. At the same time, the explosive news of the young hero Zhou Sun punishing evil and encouraging good, as well as challenging the evil tyrants Kong Zhongwu and Xie Ague, also spread throughout the town. Even in the surrounding villages, people came to watch the fun. Sun Lang nodded. People's hearts can be used. People's hearts can be used. Master He, you did a good job. However, you did not do well enough. He whispered to Mr. He and patted his chest as if he was commanding a henchman. "Do you understand? Go, go. When you are done, I will show you a bright way to make money." Master He's expression became awkward again. "This," Sun Lang raised his eyebrows. "Mr. He, if you continue to be like this, I will not recite the poem." "Damn it, this little bastard. Forget it. I have already done something shameful. One more won't make a difference." He gritted his teeth and reached out to call his steward. He whispered a few words to the steward, and the steward left hesitantly with a constipated expression. After a while, the sound of children's voices spread throughout the streets and alleys of Lu Town. A group of children held the candied haws that they had just received and shouted everywhere. "Lu Town's Leather City! Lu Town's Leather City! The bastard boss Kong Zhongwu ran away! Kong Zhongwu is a bastard! He is not human! Good, good!" Sun Lang heard the voices of the people. He clapped his hands and said, "Later, I will do a few more explosive jokes. It will definitely attract these two guys. Or, I will get some unexpected surprises. Chapter 261. In Lu Town, the sound of gongs and drums filled the sky. The people in the streets and alleys were all attracted by the love story of the bastard boss Kong Zhongwu, who ran away, or paid attention to the interesting story of Xie Agui's friend who traveled thousands of miles to have a homosexual relationship with someone, but did not even get 100 copper coins. For a moment they all wanted to see the elegance of these two people, so they all gathered towards the arena. For Lu Town, this was a very, very lively and big event in this period of time. And although the bustling world was impetuous, in the 100-herb garden, it was peaceful and auspicious. The oil flies were singing softly here, the crickets were playing the zither here, the teachers were teaching here, and the students were studying here. In the study, Sima Ping sat upright and still, deep in thought, holding a brush in her hand, constantly recording. This morning, the new teacher started the first lesson of dispelling doubt. The famous doctor surnamed Lu held a book in one hand and a tobacco pipe in the other, pacing around the study, reciting a precious prescription. It must be an extremely good prescription because she saw that when the teacher was reading, he would raise his head, shake it, and turn it to the back, turn it to the back, turn it to the back. Hence, Sima Ping was also immersed in this first lesson, quickly recording down the prescriptions that the teacher was talking about. When prescribing medicine and grasping prescriptions, the most important thing was the guiding herbs. For example, 2 pieces of fresh ginger, or bamboo leaves to be sharpened, or reed roots, or sugarcane that had been frosted for 3 years, or a pair of crickets for the first wife, or flatland wood. She quickly recorded it down. Although it was very strange, why did the crickets have to be the first wife, couldn't the remarried ones? And what was flatland wood? But since the teacher was talking about it, then she would record it down. If she did not understand, then Sima Ping was thinking like this, but suddenly heard a thunderous shout, "The guiding herbs that I mentioned above are all fucking nonsense." Sima Ping blinked her eyes, waiting for her brain to digest this tornado-like attack. She looked at the densely packed, elegant, and neat small regular script she had memorized on the paper, and expressionlessly raised her head. In the future, if you meet these deliberately mystifying idiots, beat them up whenever you see them. The teacher shouted again. In the world of knowledge, whether it is seeking medical treatment, investigating things, or other things, the most taboo is blind belief and blind obedience. The core of the development of medicine is doubt. Doubt the teacher. Doubt the founder. Doubt the medical books. Doubting himself. Some things are wrong. As long as there's concrete evidence to prove that it's wrong, even if it's what the founder said, it's still wrong. Sima Ping thought about what her master was pursuing in his life, and seemed to have understood something. She slowly nodded and suddenly heard a sigh from the side. So boring. Hearing this voice, both master and disciple showed a helpless expression at the same time and turned their heads together. In the corner of the study, a valiant woman was leaning against a pillar, scratching the wall with her nails in boredom. Noticing their gazes, she turned her head away as if nothing had happened and sighed. "I'm so bored. How did I survive these past few years?" Lu Shuzhen frowned. "Zhao Yunlong, if you want to be coquettish, get out, that won't do." Great General Zhao's voice was a little weak. She shook her head and her high ponytail swayed listlessly. "Sun Lang asked me to keep an eye on you," Lu Shuzhen said coldly. "Is this the reason why you leaned on the beam and watched me for the whole night?" Zhao Yunlong didn't answer the other party's question and turned his gaze to the direction of the door again. He sighed for the umpteenth time today. So boring. Sun Lang hasn't come back yet? Great Dr. Lu said calmly. Kong Zhongwu and Xiaogui are small characters. Even if 100 of them were tied together, it wouldn't be enough for him to hit a few punches. There are only 3 possibilities if he hasn't come back after a whole night. First, he didn't find anything and is following the clues to find another solution. Second, he found something very interesting. Third, he glanced at Zhao Yunlong, who was listening attentively, and the corners of his mouth curved into a smile. He was fascinated by the Black King's beauty and immersed in her tenderness, unable to extricate himself. He doesn't want you anymore. However, the expected situation of the other party flying into a rage or being shocked did not happen. Great Dr. Lu was surprised to find that the other party only raised his eyes and glanced at her with a look that said, "You know nothing about Sun Lang's power." This look made Great Dr. Lu very unhappy. She raised her eyebrows and said, "You have so much confidence in him? Humph, this guy is a pervert. Back in the day, he often said vulgar words like f*ck the dog, and liked to tell some messy stories about demons and ghosts. Do you remember the Battle of the Quiniusi? After he boarded the Tide Gazer, he chased after the town general and asked, 'Is there a ship maiden on the ship? And can I f*ck it?' He was interested in ship spirits, so do you think he wouldn't be tempted by a snake demon? You've seen the Black King's beauty and seduction technique. She's also naive and simple, ignorant of worldly affairs. With that guy's personality, he definitely won't be able to hold himself back." Zhao Yunlong looked at her strangely. "Then you're not worried about letting your snake go out with him?" Great Dr. Lu smiled mysteriously. "Because I've already told the Black King that if Sun Lang acts recklessly, I'll give him a big surprise. You're scheming against him again." Zhao Yunlong shook his head. "However, if that's the case, then you've miscalculated. Sun Lang is no longer the Sun Lang of the past. I dare say that he'll definitely be well behaved towards your snake, and won't touch her at all." Great Dr. Lu looked at Zhao Yunlong's solemn expression and said in surprise, "This guy really changed? How? What happened?" Zhao Yunlong said with a faint smile, "Because his taste has become very high now. He won't take a fancy to that silly little snake of yours. Why would he let her dirty her body? But now you can rest assured. He won't even take a fancy to that charming little snake of yours, let alone an old woman like you. Even if you take the initiative to seduce him, he definitely won't be moved. No, no, no. Don't even talk about seducing him. Even if you approach him, he'll definitely keep a distance from you. Even if you only want to pat his shoulder or touch his body, he definitely won't let you." General Zhao smiled and said, "Oh right. Do you remember last night? You said that you wanted to clap your hands to swear an oath, but he didn't agree. Obviously, he despises you to the extreme and won't even touch your hand." Great Dr. Lu snorted. "I haven't seen you for a few years, but your ability to lie is still so clumsy." Zhao Yunlong waved his hand. "Believe it or not, it's up to you. If you're not convinced, you can go and try it yourself. See if Sun Lang will allow you to touch him." Lu Shuzhen sneered. "Zhao Yunlong, whether it's getting to know him or becoming friends with him, it's all because I was the one who did it first. When I put my arm around his shoulder, you weren't even there yet." Zhao Yunlong nodded. "I know you're old, so Sun Lang already despises you? If you're not convinced, why don't you put your arm around his shoulder again?" Master Lu said disdainfully, "Do you think I'm afraid of you? When he comes back, I'll let you broaden your horizons." Sima Ping was listening at the side. The more she listened, the more she felt that something was wrong. She had suffered at the hands of Sun Lang before, so she knew that guy seemed to have practiced some kind of perverted martial arts. Basically, anyone who came into contact with him would become very strange. As a former victim, she couldn't help but shiver when she saw how Zhao Yunlong acted, as if nothing had happened, and how he was talking cheerfully while dragging her teacher into the pit. She wanted to remind him, but Chao Patao seemed to have noticed it. He glanced at her with a faint smile. Sima Ping immediately lowered her eyes. Master once said that an outstanding doctor must learn to protect himself. There are some words that shouldn't be said. Anyway, you won't lose a piece of flesh. Instead, you'll feel a little comfortable. Mister, you can relax and enjoy it. After all, I'm also a little looking forward to seeing such a cold, noble, proud, and frosty mister become like that. I really want to see it. Master Lu obviously didn't know that he had fallen into some kind of great danger. Therefore, a person's fate was unpredictable. Even if she racked her brains, she would never have thought that Sun Lang would awaken the power of such a shameless sword. She also didn't think that Zhao Yunlong, a rash person who always acted faster than he thought, would set up such a treacherous scheme. She also didn't think that this seemingly obedient new student of hers would betray her teacher without saying anything during the first lesson. What a sad story. She snorted and looked at the sky outside. All right, let's call it a day. It's time for lunch. Sima Ping stood up and thanked the teacher. Then, she asked politely, do you need me to cook for lunch? Not today. Miracle Dr. Lu had been single for many years. Loneliness didn't last long. He only had a beautiful snake woman as his companion, so his secretions were a little out of order. Seeing that his new student was so obedient and smart, he softened his tone and expression and said gently, "Today is the first day of accepting a disciple. Let's go out and have a good meal." Of course, if she knew what her disciple was thinking just now, it would be a different story. She might pick up her beloved knife and carve the word B*TCH on Sima Ping's forehead. Zhao Yunlong's intuition was always so sharp. Hearing that, he said nonchalantly, "I'm guilty and want to ask around. What is Sun Lang doing?" "So what?" Miracle Dr. Lu said proudly. "This is a bet between me and him. Both of us have our own methods. Naturally, I can figure out what he's planning to do. This guy didn't return for the entire night, so he must have encountered a problem. With his crazy personality, he definitely won't act according to common sense. He must make a big deal out of it. Maybe when we go out, we'll hear him stirring up trouble." Just as he finished speaking, a child's voice faintly drifted in. The voice was tender and clear, filled with the childlike interest of learning to speak. However, the content was so vulgar that it was hard to imagine which crazy person would actually teach such vulgar language to this group of children. Sui Zhou's Lu Town. Sui Province's Lu Town. Lu Town's Leather City. Lu Town's Leather City. Bastard boss Kong Zhongwu owed 350,000 taels of silver and ran away with his brother-in-law. Lu Shuzhen stood there stupefied. After a moment, he said, "In the entire empire, there's only one bastard who can make up such a thing." Zhao Yunlong's eyes emitted light. Her entire temperament changed greatly. The decadent and lazy air was swept away. She grabbed the Jiao Chang leaning against the wall and swung her high ponytail. "Let's go, let's go." Lu Shuzhen snorted. "Let's go, let's see what this guy is up to." The three of them simply tidied up and went out. If it was a normal day, three beauties with their own charm walking on the street would definitely cause a small commotion. However, today, the attention of the majority of Lu townspeople was all attracted by this brainwashing marketing. Every household, male and female, old and young, as long as they were free, were all enthusiastically discussing the major events of Lu Town. The three of them didn't need to bother to inquire. After listening for a while, they understood most of the situation. Simply put, the Kong residence was smashed last night. It was said that half of the courtyard wall collapsed and the front courtyard was razed to the ground. It was as if an earth dragon had turned over. The Xie residence was burned to the ground. The one who set the fire was a young hero. His surname was Zhou and his name was Sun. He was one of the legendary Sannin. He had a series of unknown titles and seemed to have very powerful martial arts. Moreover, This young hero had set up the Heroes Arena in Lu Town today. It was called Lu Town's first martial arts competition. He challenged Lu Town's two devils by name, the evil Kong Zhongwu and the evil Xia Agui. Zhou Sun. Lu Shuzhen repeated the name. For no reason, she felt a chill. I always feel that this name hides a deep malice towards me, but I can't figure out what the problem is. Is it an illusion? There was no need to ask where the arena was at all. They just had to follow the crowd. After walking for a while and turning a few streets, they saw the arena not far away. It was a plum blossom pile and an elevated platform. 18 kinds of weapons were displayed on both sides of the platform, and a plaque that read Lu Town's first martial arts competition hung high above. A silk banner hung at the corner of the arena, fluttering in the wind. It was a very beautiful sight. There was no one on the stage. There was no telling where the main characters of the arena and the organizer were having their meal. Even so, the people below the stage did not feel bored. They were whispering to each other, spittle flying as they revealed their own exclusive news. It was nothing more than the anecdotes of Dumbo Kong and Xia Agui, and it had now developed to version 3.0. Miracle Dr. Lu was both annoyed and amused when he saw all this. What is this guy trying to do? Is he really going to fight? Kong Zhongwu and Xia Agui aren't idiot. Why would they jump out on their own? It's been a long time since we last met, but this guy is still impudent and doesn't know his place. He actually wants to go up against two of the town's hooligans. Right at this moment, the sound of the wind whistled by, and amidst the exclamations of everyone present, the windows of the restaurant on the opposite side opened wide as a figure flashed through the sky like an eagle that had spread its wings, and then it slowly descended onto the arena in a graceful manner, causing its movements to be extremely flashy. For the people of Lu Town, such exquisite qigong was rare. But before everyone could cheer, they saw the young man who suddenly descended from the sky with his hands clasped behind his back, looking up at the sky. He said mildly, "The weather forecast said it would rain today, but the weather is clear when I come." Chapter 262. It was noon and the sun was hanging high in the sky. Lu Town was crowded with people. Many people brought their own dry food and small stools to watch the show. After all, in this old society, the spiritual life of the masses was very lacking. Singing opera was already an extremely great entertainment, but it could only be done during festivals, or when some big shots were celebrating their birthdays. Usually it was very rare. Therefore, this time, young hero Zhou wanted to challenge Lu Town's twin demons to a fight in the arena for everyone to see. Regardless of whether they won or lost, just the excitement of the fight was worth it to watch. Hua Xiaoxuan walked among the crowd with his body bent and his face very pale. Lu Town was a water town. In this season, the wind was very bone-chilling, causing him to shrink his neck tightly into his collar. The passers-by occasionally turned their heads to take a look, and their faces changed and they distanced themselves from Hua Xiaoxuan. This young man looked young, but his face was frighteningly pale and his body was thin and weak. But the strange thing was that his lips were unexpectedly red and he was wearing a red robe. This person's appearance and temperament made people feel extremely strange and uncomfortable. The instinct of living creatures made the passers-by try their best to keep a distance from him. But Hua Xiaoxuan put his hands into his sleeves as if there was no one around. He stuck out his blood-red tongue and licked around his lip. "It's so cold. I'm so hungry." They gathered at the ruined temple outside the town. The leader of the team assigned the task given by the higher-ups. Last night, two of their companions defected. They were responsible for hunting them down and capturing them alive. These two companions were the influential people in Lu Town. One was called Kong Zhongwu and the other was called Xia Agui. They used to be insignificant characters, But they changed and became the giants that Lu Town kept a secret. They stirred up the wind and the clouds, like carps leaping over the dragon's gate, and became famous in one fell swoop. The rise of a small fry like a salted fish was naturally a topic that the majority of the people took delight in talking about. This was especially so when these two small fries revealed their true colors after making a name for themselves and exploited and harmed the good people even more severely. This was even more worthy of discussion. However, no matter how the commoners cursed and no matter how many people tried to investigate, there was still one big mystery that could not be solved. That was, how did the two people, who were originally nameless and weak in kung fu, suddenly become powerful and scheming people? There were more than a dozen versions of the story. Some said that they jumped off the cliff and found the secret kung fu book of a senior master, and were imbued with it. Some said that they took some elixir from nowhere and increased their kung fu by 60 years. However, Lu Town was so big that there should not be more than 10 people who knew the real reason. Hua Xiaoshuan closed his eyes and felt his heartbeat as well as the surrounding sounds. Nothing could escape his spiritual sense. The few people behind him were discussing the matter between Kong Zhongwu and his brother-in-law. Haha, how interesting! The two people beside him were arguing about whether Xiaogui and Kong Zhongwu would come or not. He heard the pleasant voices of women in front of him. There were 3 of them, and they seemed to be discussing a man. Listening to the tone of the 3 of them. What a lucky man! Hua Xiaoshuan opened his eyes. His manly instincts told him to look forward. He only saw 3 beautiful silhouettes flashing by and disappearing into the crowd. One of the black-robed women seemed to have turned her head to glance over. Hua Xiaoshuan did not take it to heart and smiled. Now, he had sharp eyes and ears, agile movements, and strong wrist strength. These were all high-level martial arts, the embodiment of a martial artist who had leaped over the dragon gate, surpassing ordinary people. He had refined his essence into qi, cultivated the qi circulation, and became a strange person with martial arts. It had only been a few months. Not long ago, he was just a patient lying on the bed, struggling at death's door. He was the same as Kong Zhongwu and Xiaogui. They were once lowly, lucky people whose fates had been changed. From an unknown and lowly nobody, in the blink of an eye, he had become a brilliant martial artist with a unique skill. The people who had once looked down on him, the people who had once humiliated him, were now nothing more than chickens, ducks, or even meat to be slaughtered in his hands. In this world, it was normal for people with power to have more. It was just that. A gust of cold wind blew. He shivered even more. He looked at the clear sky. The sun was high up in the sky, but he could not feel a trace of warmth. He was weak and sick since young. Lying on the bed, he thought more than the average person. The doctor said that his illness came from his mother's womb. It was a congenital deficiency, and he would have to pay the price the day after tomorrow. Everything was a force of nature, and there was a limit to the loss and profit. It was just like paying a debt, it was a matter of course. Since he had to pay the debt, since he was born with a congenital deficiency, he would be sick the day after tomorrow. Then, he raised his head slightly and sighed softly. From a weak and sickly child who was bedridden all year round, in one night, to a martial artist who possessed powerful martial arts and was superior to ordinary people, what did he have to pay? The first time he learned kung fu, the first time he could walk freely under the sun, his body was healthy, and he was like a fish leaping over the dragon gate. The two happiness added together was an unimaginable dream. Everything was so rich. But, if there was a reward, there must be a price to pay. What price did he have to pay for all this? He did not know, but his intuition told him that it must be extremely frightening. Kong Zhongwu, Xiaogui, they were smart people. They must have sensed something, so they took the opportunity to slip away. Looks like I need to plan for myself. He let out a long sigh. In order to avoid attracting attention, the 5 of them had split up and agreed to meet at the 100-herb garden. This was an opportunity. Hua Xiaoshuan made up his mind and squeezed through the crowd. He could vaguely hear the voice of a man talking in front of him. This was his target, Zhou Sun. Lu Zhen had been spreading his story today. He was the one who wiped out the Kong family last night, burned down the Xie family, and even forced the higher-ups to order the 2 of them to leave home to avoid trouble? He must be a powerful character. If this was the case, thinking back, Kong Zhongwu and Xie Ague did not dare to leave Lu Town, but wanted to find a chance to survive. Then the biggest possibility was to seek help from this fellow, to seek survival in the midst of death, to take a gamble. That was to say, by guarding this fellow and keeping an eye on him, there was a possibility that he could discover the whereabouts of Kong and Xie Ague. He followed the crowd and squeezed through. A martial artist's eyesight was extremely good. As long as he focused slightly, he would be able to see the true face of this person from far away. This fellow looked very interesting. He was a little handsome, his smile was a little bright, his martial arts was a little high, his temperament was not bad, as if he had all kinds of good points. But the thing that attracted Hua Xiaoshuan the most was the manner in which this fellow spoke and acted. He was calm and unruffled, with just the right amount of confidence, as if there was nothing in the world that could catch him off guard. This was what Hua Xiaoshuan admired the most. After all, he was the thin and weak young man who had been tossing and turning on his sickbed a few months ago. And now, he did not have the face to stand openly under the sun. Even if his martial arts were high, even if his body was healthy, he did not have the courage to live under the sun, because he had made a deal with the devil. So, this fellow wanted to set up an arena in Lu Town and called Kong Zhongwu and Xie Ague out to fight. What a strange fellow. He took a few steps closer and listened attentively. This fellow seemed to be talking about the cause and effect of this arena battle. When old Master Zhao and Mr. He first invited me to fight in the arena, I actually refused because I can't just go and fight because you asked me to. You said that I was a handsome young man who roamed the Jianghu. Why did I come to Lu Town to fight with 2 local ruffians? So I said, you should find someone better. I'm not being modest. His words were quite interesting. He tightened the crimson robe on his body and felt that the temperature around him had dropped, but he did not care too much. He really wanted to know the background of this fellow who was speaking on the arena and what kind of person he was. If Kong and Xie Ague had placed their hopes on this person, then he must have the ability to turn the tide. But he did not seem to be a very high-level master. He took a few more steps forward and listened even more carefully. That fellow seemed to be in high spirits, and his eloquence was also not bad. With just a few words, he had made everyone hold their bellies in laughter. Following that, he changed the topic, and without leaving a trace, he turned the topic back to the arena. Since the 2 of you gentlemen are so sincere in your pleas, then I will be merciful and agree. So at that time I recited 2 lines of poetry. As he said this, the young man on the stage stood up straight, as if his figure had suddenly become taller, shining with a dense humanitarian light. He stood under the sky of Lu Town, standing in the breeze. Under the gaze of the people, he showed a fearless smile, nodded firmly, and said, I live and die in Lu Town. How can I avoid it because of misfortune or fortune? These 2 lines of poetry not only had the style of a cultured person, but also had the quality of being close to the people. Not only could everyone understand, they also felt that it was very impressive, so they all applauded and cheered. Hua Xiaoshuan carefully savored these 2 lines of poetry. He had also read books in the past, so he felt that the writing was very good. Looking at the people around him who were cheering loudly, he also smiled and was affected by the surrounding atmosphere, so he also wanted to cheer a few times. But suddenly his face changed, as he found that he could not make a sound. The instinct of a martial artist made him instantly raise his internal breath, ready to look inside his body, to swim through his 8 meridians, to defend against external enemies, and to check his internal cause, but in a flash, the surprise on his face turned into panic, because he found that his body was empty. He could not use a trace of strength. He could not summon a trace of internal strength, and a wave of weakness came over him. This feeling made him panic because a few months ago, he was still being tortured by this pain and powerlessness. Since he could remember, it had always been like this. Young hero Zhou shook his head like a lion and glared at Dr. Liu. Nonsense. As a forensic doctor, your posture still needs to be improved. When testifying against a criminal, you need to present facts and reason. That Thunderbolt on TV is way better than you. Thunderbolt? Who is it? It's Thunderbolt Qin Ming. Sun Lang said seriously. He uses a mace to match Fear Star Tian. He's a well-known forensic doctor in the industry. According to the rumors in the martial arts world, the matter of the dead can be left to him. At this moment, Sima Ping took back the silver needle and looked at the needle tip. Then, she shook her head and stood up. She said to Lu Shuzhen, "The deceased should be around 17 or 18 years old. His physique is normal and he doesn't know martial art. He also doesn't have any hidden diseases. The cause of death is relatively clear. He died of fear. As for why he was scared, I don't know. Mister, am I right?" Lu Shuzhen nodded. "That's right. If it's not poison or homicide, then it's none of our business. This matter will be dealt with by the elders in town." Sun Lang still felt that it was unbelievable. He moved closer and took a few glances. He reached out and pressed a few times on the deceased's body. He frowned. He was scared out of his wits and his mind was in a mess. He died of insanity. What a strange way to die. What did he see before he died? Why was he so scared? There's cold sweat on his body. Master Lu said faintly behind him, "I heard you recite 2 lines of poetry just now." Young hero Zhou jumped to the side as if his butt was on fire. He said loudly, "What's wrong with reciting poetry? You don't try to make any big news. You can't be so violent." Dr. Liu sneered. "But from your performance from the beginning until now, it's obvious that this matter is related to me, is written all over your face," Sun Lang said proudly. "Bullshit, I killed someone. Why wouldn't I admit it?" While the two were arguing, Li Zheng and the elders in charge of this matter in town arrived. The World Martial Arts Tournament of Dragon Ball instantly turned into the crime scene of Detective Conan. But it didn't matter. The people were here to watch the fun. Whether the performance was beating someone up or solving a case, it didn't make much of a difference. The organizers of this event, Old Master Zhao of Wei Zhuang and the head of the He family, pinched their noses and came to the scene. They looked at Sun Lang with resentment. What the hell was this? But since ancient times, officials had colluded with the gentry. In order to maintain stability, they still whispered to elderly Zhengqian for a while and settled this matter. Sudden death due to fear. Let's just settle it like this. Anyway, the doctor said so. When it was time to identify the body and find the family, Li Zheng looked for a moment and suddenly said, "Wait. Isn't this the kid from old Hua's family?" The elders were shocked and also came over to take a look. He frowned and said, "It really does look like him. He's still alive? A few months ago, his house caught fire. I thought that all 3 of his family members were buried in the sea of fire. I didn't expect him to still be alive." The 2 of them looked at each other and sighed at the same time. They waved their hands and said, "It can't be helped. His family members are all dead. There's no one to blame for his death. Send him to the memorial hall to be buried." As they said this, Li Jing arranged for people to find a straw mat and a stretcher. He hastily rolled Hua Xiaoshuan up and hurriedly left with him. Sun Lang looked at the direction where the body disappeared. He touched his chin and muttered, "It's so strange. How could such a good person die? Why would it be like this?" Lu Shuzhen snorted, "Yes, it's very strange. Could it be that he was cursed to death by you? You used to always talk about that poem. Could it be that there's a deeper meaning in it?" When Sun Lang heard this, his face lit up. "That was just a little bit of respect for an elder. There's no other meaning. Don't just listen to the wind and believe the rain. Hey, it's really strange. I don't know how many times I've played before, but why did I suddenly die this time? Could it be a coincidence? I always feel that this big brother's death is very strange." The doubt in his eyes deepened as he looked at the backs of Li Jing and the others. It seemed that he wanted to chase after them and ask again, but the Zhao family head and master, he pulled him back and asked, "Young hero Zhou, what should we do about this ring?" Sun Lang frowned. He always felt that there was something fishy about Hua Xiaoshuan's death, but he couldn't tell what was wrong. After being stirred up like this, his craziness had also decreased a lot, so he waved his hand. "What should be done, just do it. Have you found the troupe? Get them to sing a few parts for the villagers to enjoy. Anyway, everyone is here to watch the show. If there's a show, they can stay." Old Master Zhao thought of the money spent to hire the opera troupe and his heart twitched. "Can they sing Xie Gui out?" Sun Lang gave him a thumbs up, of course. "You don't know the power of this kind of artistic expression. Don't panic, I'll write a script for you later. Let the opera troupe rehearse. What Kong Zhongwu and the Seven Immortals, what Xie Gui and the Flying Devil, act for 3 days and 3 nights. I don't believe that these two little bastards won't come out." Although they didn't know what the Flying Devil was, the two respectable people still felt the malicious intent from this name. They couldn't help but feel disgusted. Sun Lang seemed to have lost interest in arguing with them. He waved his hand and said, "All right, that's it. Go and arrange it. I'll leave the rest to you. If those two bastards come out, tell me." "This place is strange, so don't wander around." No one responded to him. The 3 women silently stood up and stared at him with listless eyes, indicating for him to lead the way. So the farmer sighed again and led the way to the main hall of the herb garden. At this time, outside the herb garden, in the most prosperous area of the town, Sun Lang was sitting in the luxurious private room of the best restaurant in town. He was telling the waiter, who was stunned and trembling, about the names of the dishes. "In the end," he said, "I don't want any of these, don't be afraid." Then he laughed loudly. Sitting beside him was the loyal General Zhao Yunlong, the cold and elegant royal Dr. Lu Shuzhen, and the flat-chested lowly beauty Sima Ping. It could be said that they had formed a basic harem team. At this time, in the herb garden, the farmer was carrying his steel fork like a worker who had come to the landlord's house to work. Beside him was an old woman who was full of energy and still had a healthy body. There was also a beggar with messy hair and a mental disorder. In comparison, there was the young widow of Master Flower Rope, who was more pleasing to the eye. These 3 female friends were each more eccentric than the other, each more capable of killing than the other, and each more mentally unstable. They were the type that could explode at any time, therefore, if there was no comparison, there would be no harm. If the farmer knew about Sun Lang's current state, he would definitely have a deeper understanding of the suffering of life, one of the 8 distresses that he carried. But he did not know, so he still led them into the main hall of the herb garden's front yard with a wooden expression. A few years ago, this place was still a splendid sight. It was said that the Liu family was a prominent family in Qianhang Prefecture and even Suizhou. Now that the wind and rain had blown away, the huge Liu family had declined. The carved railings were decaying and the paintings were dim. It made people feel as if a lifetime had passed, and they sighed in their hearts. The four people looked at the herb garden with a strange expression. Theoretically speaking, with their previous social status, they could never step into the Liu family's house. But somehow they were very familiar with this place. There was a trace of reminiscence and a trace of struggle in their eyes, especially Sister Xianglin. After a while, the sharp voice of Sister Jiu Jin sounded. Alas, it's really getting worse and worse with each generation. Sister Shan intertwined her hands, and the cotton thread at her fingertips changed like a living thing. It turned out a picture of a monkey vigilantly looking around. The widow raised her head, and a trace of fear flashed in her eyes. She whispered, "They are all gone?" The farmer said in a muffled voice, "Who knows? Maybe they are all dead. Maybe they went out to harm people. Maybe they are hiding somewhere and watching us." Chapter 265. There was no spine. Empty. Blooming flesh and blood. It was like the most vicious and terrible curse. With a clang, the scale in the hands of the old lady fell to the ground. Sister-in-law Dan covered her mouth, and the farmer almost couldn't hold the steel fork in his hand. Only sister-in-law Xianglin was still laughing heartlessly. She ran to the side of Hua Xiaoshuan's body and gently stroked the dead man's hollow skull. She chuckled softly and murmured, like a gentle mother coaxing her child to sleep. The other three had already started to tremble uncontrollably. Even though they now possessed powerful martial strength, had been reborn, and were no longer the petty and pitiful people from before, they still could not help but tremble all over. No matter how powerful their martial strength was, there was still fear in the end. Moreover, this matter was even related to the meaning of their own lives. The old lady didn't even have time to say the catchphrase, "Each generation is worse than the last." Her pale and sparse eyebrows kept trembling. He was actually, fourth sister-in-law Dan bit her finger tightly. Her delicate body trembled. It was obvious that she was terrified to the extreme. She almost cried. Then we, absolutely impossible. The old lady screamed, "I'm 79 years old. I've lived to this old age. I remember everything that has happened since I was a child. When I was 7 or 8 years old, the sky demon hadn't attacked yet. When I was 15 years old and got married, those damn demons had just arrived. I've lived for so long. I've lived until the imperial court defeated them. How can I be a fake? How can it be? Yes, it's impossible." This sentence seemed to give sister-in-law Dan a lot of confidence and courage. She pressed her chest hard and felt the strong beating of her heart. The sad memory that she couldn't bear to look back on came to her mind. The picture of her life was displayed in her heart. After the carefree childhood, it was the beginning of suffering. She was betrothed to a family. Then she lost her husband, but she didn't dare to remarry. Her son became her only support and hope, and then, thinking of this, her heart felt like it was being squeezed. It hurt so much. The past life, the humiliation, the pain, the numbness, the despair, the sad memories that she still didn't dare to touch. At this time, it was like a life-saving straw, giving her the most real sense of existence. Fourth sister-in-law Dan was still alive. Although she had suffered so much, she was still alive. The farmer tapped the pitchfork lightly on the ground, making a dull thud. His voice was soft but firm. "Don't let your imagination run wild. Maybe this is a trap. Someone deliberately dug out his spine and flesh. Sister-in-law Dan's body was still trembling. She showed a crying smile. Who would do this? Who knows about it? Who would do this? What do they want? The farmer's expression was still dull. He said bitterly, I don't know anything, God damn it. Dead body. Jiu Jin's old lady was shocked and angry. When she heard the farmer's words, she was furious. She pointed at him and scolded, you don't know anything. You are responsible for contacting the higher-up. You don't know? Are you living like a puppet? You were like this before, and now you are like this. You are like this when you have no ability, and you are still like this when you know martial arts. Useless. Can't be helped. You are worse than the previous generation. The farmer smiled bitterly and let the old lady scold him. He didn't say a word. His dull temperament was not born. He also had a carefree and lively childhood. But living in this world was a kind of suffering. Raising a family, paying taxes, having many children, war. He felt that life shouldn't be like this. He felt that there was something wrong with his life. But he was stupid. He couldn't understand it and couldn't change it. He could only bear it silently, like a puppet that was casually manipulated. When he was incompetent, he was like this. In the end, when he had good martial arts, he was still like this. Fourth sister-in-law Dan pulled Jiu Jin's sleeve. She had a rough personality and was used to relying on men. She didn't have her own opinions. When she joined this small team, she was used to listening to the arrangements of the leader. At this moment, she suddenly encountered such a major change. She urgently needed someone to give her an idea. The woman whispered, Then what should we do now? It's useless to quarrel. We should at least have a rule. What rule? The 9-old lady had a fiery temper. Even though she was old, she was still like that. She picked up the iron scale from the ground and looked around. Looking at the quiet Liu family, a look of deep hatred appeared in her eyes. She said loudly, There's no explanation for sending Hua Xiaoxuan's body back. No matter who sent the body back, they definitely don't have good intentions. This old lady is 79 years old this year. I have lived long enough. You old folks, old men, high-ranking officials, you've given me martial arts and helped me to be reborn. You've also fulfilled my wish. Now, it's only right that I want to take back my life. She raised the iron scale in her hand and pointed around, saying sternly, But if you want to take back your life, do it openly. What kind of skill is this to use such underhanded methods? This old lady has lived for 79 years and has seen a lot in this life. He had seen dead people and heavenly demons before, but he had never seen anyone hang a dead child from a beam for all to see. That bunch of God-damned. Before she could finish, fourth sister-in-law Dan hurried up and covered her mouth, whispering, Stop talking. It might not be the higher-ups who did it. Who else could it be if not the higher-ups? Jiu Jin's old lady said sternly. I'm 79 years old. I've lived long enough. I've had enough too. Isn't it just death? Rather than sit and wait for death, why not fight with all your might? Now, it seems that Dumbo Kong and Xiaogue are really courageous men. At most, they know how to resist. They are much stronger than you. No wonder they were the ones in charge of bringing down the Liu and Zhao family, and not a useless corpse like you. Even Xiaogue, that bear, could be a tyrant. You are much stronger than them in martial arts, but you are only fit to be a bumpkin. The farmer was still expressionless and silent. He calmly allowed himself to be scolded by Jiu Jin's old lady. Seeing him like this, the old lady was even more angry. She repeatedly stomped her feet and said, Are you pretending to be dead? Then you can continue to play dead here. Wait for the higher-ups to kill you, and you won't resist at all, just like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Fourth sister-in-law Dan seemed to realize something and asked anxiously, What are you doing? I've lived for 79 years. I've lived long enough. Even if I die now, it's enough. But I don't want to die in such a cowardly manner, Jiu Jin's old lady said furiously. Each generation is worse than the last. We were cowards who feared death the most back then. How do we die? Not death? The farmer said lifelessly. We made a deal with the higher-ups. Even if they take our lives, it's a matter of course, because this is what we agreed on before. The price of that deal was our lives, not our dignity. Jiu Jin's old lady shouted. Even if I die, I have to die standing. We are upright people, not beasts waiting to be slaughtered. I've lived for 79 years. I've lived long enough. I should have died long ago. My family is dead. I watched them die. They didn't even look human when they died. I'm an old man, I don't live like a human. When I die, I have to at least look human when I die. The farmer sighed and persuaded, Jiu Jin's old lady, calm down a little. Calm down, your mother? I'm going to fight with them today. I'm going to find the man who attacked the Kong and Xie families last night. Since the higher-ups are so afraid, this man must have some ability. Even if I die, I'm going to expose these things. Even if I die, I won't let them have an easy time. Jiu Jin's old lady stared at the farmer and disdainfully said, You dead body, just stay here. She finished and turned to leave. Fourth sister-in-law Dan was anxious and shouted, Old lady, wait. Jiu Jin's old lady suddenly turned back and stared at fourth sister-in-law Dan. Do you want to come with me? Fourth sister-in-law Dan hesitated for a moment. She was not a bold and impulsive person. She hesitated and said, forget it. Jiu Jin's old lady waved her hand. At this time, her expression became gentle. She said softly, "He must be well. He is still young and has a long life. Remember what I just said." Fourth sister-in-law Dan still wanted to say something, but Jiu Jin's old face squeezed out a smile. Then she left the front hall and disappeared by the door. Fourth sister-in-law Dan watched her leaving figure disappear in the corridor. She wanted to chase after her, but her legs were like lead. She was always like this, always lacking courage, always lacking the courage to take a step forward. She was like this in the past and now. Perhaps they were all like this. 8 hardships in life, 8 people. They were once humble and insignificant people in the dust, numb and powerless. Even if they had martial bones and acquired martial arts unimaginable to ordinary people, there was still a weakness in their character that could not be easily changed. They were still burdened with suffering, unable to break free, unable to move forward. The farmer was like this, she was like this, and she believed that others were like this too. Martial arts could not change this numb and ignorant character. What could change it? Could it really be changed? Jiu Jin's old lady walked through 100 Herb Garden. It was only a short distance from here to the front door. She could just go back the way she came. When she entered the town, she heard about the incident at the arena. She knew that the person who made a scene at the Kong and Xie family last night, forcing the two to flee in a sorry state, was stirring up trouble in Lu Town. That man must have something powerful, enough to make the higher-ups afraid. So now the only way to survive was to find him and tell him everything. Kong Zhongwu and Xie Ague, these 2 corpses, must have thought of this point and made this plan. Maybe Hua Xiaoshuan was also like this. But he was dead. That meant her expression became grave and stern as she clenched the weight in her hand. Although Lu Town was not big, and the distance from the herb garden to the arena was not very long, this road would definitely be filled with danger and hidden dangers. It was hard to predict what would happen ahead. She hoped that no matter what the outcome was, it would be of value and would be of help. I've lived for 79 years. I've lived long enough. I should have died long ago, she muttered. I hope, before she left the 100 Herb Garden, she heard the crisp sound of clapping. In this empty and desolate 100 Herb Garden, it was abrupt and strange. The sound was soft and gentle, like a child clapping his hands and playing a game. Jiu Jin's old lady's lips curled into a cold smile. It's here. She raised her voice and whistled, wanting to attract the attention of the farmer and the others. For against one, even if there was no chance of winning, there was still room to maneuver. But after she shouted twice, her voice was transmitted out by her strong inner strength. There was no response. Following that, she heard a crisp child's voice. It seemed to be singing some kind of nursery rhyme. Ding dong dong, no one is pretending. She was slightly stunned. That child's voice continued to sing, my eyes are still clear, my heart cannot be at ease. Jiu Jin's old lady's expression changed slightly. She felt uncomfortable. This nursery rhyme seemed to be referring to something. The next moment, her expression changed greatly. It became incomparably pale, revealing an incomparable fear. It was as if all the secrets in her heart had been exposed. Even when she was facing the dead Hua Xiao Xuan and that terrifying association, she did not reveal such fear. Because that child's voice clapped his hands and sang, Gulyalu, Gulyalu, the first to drink the soup. If you don't drink, I'll pretend first. Woo hoo hoo, I'll drink it all. Jiu Jin's old lady clutched her chest tightly. Her face lost all color and became incomparably pale. She retreated back and shook her head hard. She bit her lips and patted her head. Terrifying memories, came one after another. She had lived for 79 years. She had lived long enough. She was only afraid of dying without a trace. Her family had all died. She had seen them die. They had all died without a trace. War, chaos, famine, food. There was nothing to eat. People had to live. She seemed to see that boiling pot, the aroma that assailed her nose. The hungry people looked at each other in dismay. No one was willing to move their chopsticks first. That was something that happened a long time ago. It was so long ago that many people had forgotten about it. Only she refused to forget. The nursery rhyme was still singing. It sang, Rock comes out, scissors hide, hee-ha-ha, don't panic. She was the only one who survived. She was the only one who survived from the beginning to the end. It was not her turn to die. It was not her turn. She had lived for 79 years. She had lived long enough. In those years, the sky demon had invaded. The divine prefecture was in chaos. The common people had suffered. In the chaotic times, human lives were like grass. The numbers on the paper were just a series of cold numbers. To the people involved, it was an unbearable weight. I've lived for 79 years. I've lived long enough. Even if I die, I want to live like a human, she said, recited, and encouraged herself. She grabbed the scale in her hand with all her might. On the hook of the scale was a weight that she would never be able to weigh in her entire life. Come on. She rushed in the direction of the nursery rhyme like a madwoman. She raised the iron scale in her hand. Damn it, I'll fight it out with you. After passing through countless corridors and small courtyards, she stopped in an open grassland. A little girl was holding a handful of beans and a small pinwheel. She was singing happily. Suddenly, she turned around and saw the little girl with a cute ponytail. She smiled and squinted her eyes. She shouted sweetly, Ma! The old lady who weighed 9 caddies felt as if she had been struck by lightning. Her body froze. She looked at the little girl in front of her and said in a trembling voice, 6 caddies. The little girl smiled sweetly. She jumped and sang the last line of the nursery rhyme with a sweet voice. Rock comes out, scissors hide, hee-ha-ha, don't panic. Next meal, you make soup. Chapter 266. The old lady of Jiu Jin did not die silently. At least the farmer and Dan C's sister-in-law, who were in a mess in the front hall of Herb Garden, heard her desperate scream before she died. The farmer and Dan's sister-in-law's face suddenly changed. They stood up at the same time, looked at each other, and immediately rushed to the direction of the scream as fast as they could. Even the farmer's dull face showed anxiety and fear, not to mention Dan's sister-in-law. She was a weak and indecisive person before, and she was still the same now. The two people's speed was extremely fast, and it was such an urgent matter. Their figures were really as fast as lightning. In a short time, they arrived at the place where the scream came out. They were confident that with this speed, no matter how strong the murderer's martial arts was, he certainly could not run far. However, the fact once again disappointed them. Seeing the scene in front of them, Dan's sister-in-law covered her mouth in horror, and tears rolled down. The old lady of Eugene was dead. This was a courtyard. He was sitting on a stone bench at the foot of the wall, holding a palm leaf fan in her left hand. She looked like an ordinary old lady who was sitting in the yard in the afternoon and chatting with the younger generation. But on her pale and wrinkled face, there was an extremely strange smile. It seemed like she was relieved and satisfied. The thing that really attracted the two people's attention was the weight that he always carried with her. It was her weapon, and for her, it seemed to have a different meaning. Meat. On the big iron hook of the scale there were several large pieces of meat. Blood was still dripping, drop by drop, and fell into the soil. As for the heavy weight, it hung steadily on one of the stars on the scale pole. The two of them reached a temporary balance, marking the weight of the meat. The farmer knew how to use the scale. After a glance, he almost sleepily said, 6 pounds. The village where the old lady of Eugene was born had some special customs. When women gave birth to children, they liked to use the scale to weigh the weight, so they used the weight as a nickname. Drops of blood fell, and the meat gradually lost a little weight. The balance between the weight and the meat was swaying from side to side on the scale pole. At this time, a drop of blood seemed to be the last loss, and became the last straw that broke the camel's back. The perfect balance of the first arm lever was broken, and the weight suddenly fell down along the scale pole. The weight fell and the flesh was pressed to a high point. The balance of the scale was broken in an instant. Just like the human heart and good and evil, they could never be easily measured. This seemed to be a signal of collapse and disintegration. When the weight fell, the entire delicate balance was declared destroyed. The smiling figure of the 9-year-old lady also collapsed in an instant, falling head first to the ground. Many parts of her body were dripping with blood. The missing pieces of flesh had clearly been torn off and strung on the hook, dripping with blood. The most terrifying thing was that the back of her neck was empty. Behind her collar there was a faint black void. Sister-in-law Dan could no longer restrain her fear. She screamed in horror. She did not care about the distance between men and women. She threw herself into the farmer's arms. Her body trembled violently, and she sobbed intermittently. Obviously, she was extremely frightened. Hua Xiaoxuan, Eugene old lady, they died one after another, but their spines all disappeared without a trace. This was enough to infer the most terrible association, challenging the limit of their spirit. The farmer's lips were also constantly trembling. Although the woman was in his arms, he could not arouse any thoughts. His body was stiff for a moment, and then he gently patted sister-in-law Dan's shoulder. He was clumsy and could not say any comforting words. Moreover, in such a desperate situation, even if he was an eloquent speaker, he could not say any comforting words. So he just gently patted and patted. But it was actually effective. Sister-in-law Dan's breathing gradually calmed down, and her body slowly stopped trembling. She seemed to be ashamed to do such an intimate action with a man who was not her husband's relative. But the horror and despair made her full of fear. She really did not have the courage to face everything alone. So she had to, like an ostrich, tightly buried her head in the farmer's chest and whispered, What should we do?" Subconsciously, the farmer wanted to say that he didn't know. However, Hua Xiaoshuan's expression when he died with his eyes wide open, the curses of the old lady before she passed away, and the sufferings he suffered in this life made him live like a puppet. For a moment, when he thought of this, he had mixed feelings. It was as if something was surging in his heart and roaring in his chest, as if it wanted to break through the last shackles and ignite a raging flame to burn everything, but the shackles were too strong. Even if the voice in his heart was roaring like thunder, he could not hear it clearly. The farmer looked at the corpse of Jiujin old lady. Thinking of what she whispered to sister-in-law Dan before she left, he sighed. Perhaps at that time, the old lady had already made up her mind to die. Even if she could not spread the news, she would use her death to tell him and sister-in-law Dan that Hua Xiaoshuan's death was not an accident, but a premeditated, despicable massacre. He gently closed his eyes, then opened them again. He took a deep look at the corpse of the 9-Jin old lady, and lightly said, "Let's leave the 100-herb garden and find the person who's fighting in the arena." The 9-Jin old lady said that man is our only chance of survival. Since this is her last wish, then we'll help her complete it. Moreover, he was silent for a moment and said softly, "Although I am not afraid of death, but if you don't want to die like this, then I will, at least, protect you." Sister-in-law Dan's body trembled. Maybe the farmer did not mean anything else, but such words still made her feel at a loss. The widow hurriedly retreated a few steps. Her face was a little bright red. She whispered, "Then let's call sister-in-law Xianglin." Ouch! Both of them were shocked and looked at each other. They just remembered that when they heard the screams of Jiujin old lady, they rushed here without thinking. They even forgot that sister-in-law Xianglin was still in the front hall. If it was a normal person, even if the farmer and sister-in-law Dan did not call, a normal person would know to follow them immediately. But sister-in-law Xianglin was a crazy person. They shivered and didn't care about burying the body of the 9 caddies old woman. They hurriedly grabbed their weapons and rushed back to the front hall like a gust of wind. They looked inside vigilantly and impatiently, hoping to see Xianglin Sa's figure, hoping to see her squatting beside Hua Xiaoshuan's body and clapping her hands. However, what made the two feel as if they had fallen into an ice cave was that this crazy old woman beggar had already disappeared in a short period of time. Only Hua Xiaoshuan's corpse was still lying on the ground alone, motionless. They still had a little bit of hope. Maybe sister-in-law Xianglin was just running around. The farmer shouted a few times, but there was no response. Usually, sister-in-law Xianglin was very obedient to the farmer. As long as she heard the farmer's call, even if she was a few miles away, she would come at the fastest speed. But at this time, she had been missing and there was no response. The farmer and sister-in-law Dan looked at each other. Even with their high kung fu and strong internal qi, they still felt a chill in their hearts. They received the task in the morning and met at the ruined temple. They were ordered to chase and kill 2 rebels. They agreed to set up an ambush in the herb garden. At that time, everyone had their own thoughts and plans. But after 2 or 4 hours, the situation changed. So far, 2 were dead and 1 was missing. The remaining 2 were full of fear and despair. Now, in their eyes, the herb garden was no different from a bloody battlefield or a Jura hell. The enemy seemed to be everywhere. Between the grass and the forest, there was murderous intent everywhere. Sister-in-law Dan's teeth were chattering. The cotton thread in her hand was tightly clenched. The farmer frowned. After a moment, his eyes flashed a trace of determination. "We will leave the herb garden immediately, and then, we will leave it to fate." I don't want to be like that," sister-in-law Dan said in a low voice. "So, promise me when you kill me you must be quick, okay?" The farmer thought for a moment and nodded, "Okay." He looked like he had promised sister-in-law Dan that when he came back from work today and passed by the cloth shop, he would bring her a piece of cloth. Sister-in-law Dan was originally full of fear. Looking at his dull and stiff appearance, she couldn't help but smile and softly said, "Let's go." The two of them bowed a few times in the direction of Hua Xiaoshuan's corpse and the Jiu Jin old lady's corpse. Then they hurriedly left. The murderous intent was heavy. A fatal crisis could come at any time. They had no time to bury the two of them. Moreover, for them, whether they could be buried or not was no longer important. If there was a soul after death, then when they went to hell, they wouldn't have a good retribution. The two of them had a lot on their minds. They left the herb garden in the direction they came from. They were vigilant for any strange movements that might appear at any time. Their mood was tense to the extreme, as if they were walking on a hopeless road of death. On one of the eaves of the 100-herb garden, two gigantic tusks slowly emerged, followed by a pair of golden compound eyes. The eyeballs were staring motionlessly in the direction that the two people had left in. Its body was stained with blood that had yet to dry. Suddenly, its terrifying mouth opened, and its gigantic mouth stretched outwards, spitting out several white objects. They were sections by sections, and seemed to be the fragments of bone somewhere. Then it wriggled its body, intertwined its abdomen, climbed down the wall, walked through the grass, and swam in the direction of the Jiu Jin old lady's corpse. The farmer and sister-in-law Dan didn't care about shocking the world. Although they knew that their actions were extremely eye-catching, they couldn't care less. It was better to take a risk. They used their qigong to increase their speed to the extreme. They swept through the long street and shuttled between the houses. The pedestrians stayed far away from them. Some people were still pointing at them. A rustic farmer and a pretty young widow. The two of them were actually martial artists who could fly in the sky. This kind of combination, this kind of identity, really made people's imagination run wild. It seemed that the story of Dumbo Kong and his brother-in-law, as well as Xie Agui's family affairs, had developed people's creativity. It made people's imagination complete a leap in this section. The two of them had no time to care about the passers-by's pointing and malicious laughter. Seeing that there were many people in front of them, they simply jumped up and moved back and forth between the second floor on both sides of the street. For a while, they didn't know how many clothes racks were kicked over, how many windows were opened and closed, and how many chaste women lost the opportunity to seduce Westgate big official. This kind of behavior naturally attracted countless curses, but the two of them turned a deaf ear to it. As they ran, they looked for the ring while being vigilant. If at this time there was a hero who was unhappy with the two of them and wanted to stop them and teach them some things about the traffic laws in the town, he would most likely be attacked by the two frightened birds with all their strength. The consequences would be really unpredictable. Well, in this society there were still positive energy, and there were also heroes. A private room by the window of a restaurant was also affected by this kind of speeding behavior. When the two of them rushed over, they brought with them a gust of wind that slammed the window shut. It seemed that the wine jug and the dishes were blown into a mess. Then, the window was pushed open forcefully. A hero who saw injustice stuck his head out and scolded, "If this is the capital, you can King forget about getting a qigong certificate in this lifetime." Then, the hero threw a wine glass. The wind was swift and fierce as it pierced through the air. "Get over here to receive your ticket." The farmer who had already rushed over felt something in his heart. The murderous aura that had been taught all this time was triggered by the threat behind him. In an instant it was released. His right foot heavily stepped on a wall, and it seemed that the row of houses along the street shook. Taking advantage of the recoil, the farmer turned around and stabbed. The wine glass hit the sharp edge of the steel fork and was instantly smashed into pieces. However, the farmer did not stop. With a terrifying murderous aura, he rushed towards the hero who stuck his body out of the window. At this time, the two of them were on tenterhooks. Their nerves were stretched to the limit. Being attacked suddenly, the murderous aura naturally poured out. As for whether the other party was here to kill them, it was no longer important. First kill first. Sister-in-law Dan had been cooperating with the farmer for a long time. Seeing the farmer's long fork and long spear, she waved her hands and a dozen cotton threads wrapped around her fingertip. The other end silently spread out and rolled up the roof tiles. She waved her delicate hands and a dozen tiles flew into the sky. Following the farmer's figure, they flew towards the target from all directions. The farmer's eyes were full of murderous intent. The steel fork shone with cold light. This strike was earth-shattering. All the sadness, anger, and panic he had felt since the herb garden until now were all integrated into one strike. Unintentionally, it had already improved his kung fu. However, he was not happy about it. The target in front of him was very powerful. There was no such master in the small Lu town. Was he sent to kill them? If so, he must have a very powerful backup plan. He must be careful. How is he going to block this attack of mine? Will he use his weapon to meet force with force, or will he retreat? What will he counterattack? How should I deal with it? The farmer made a plan to fight. Then, he found himself stop. Using the power of the flying immortal from outer heaven, he stopped stabbing. Because the sharp steel fork was directly held by the person in front of him. The person's body did not even sway, and his unstoppable flying spear was completely stopped. As a result, he was now holding the steel fork tightly and hanging in the air in an almost comical posture. In other words, he was held in the air by the person with the fork. What happened? For a moment, his dull mind could not understand what had happened. Then, he saw the person smiling slightly. You have some skills. Then, the sky and earth turned and the sound of the wind came to his ears. Sister-in-law Dan, who was at the back, saw a blur in front of her eyes. She saw the farmer was swung half a circle with the fork and was suddenly thrown to this side. He was about to hit the tiles she threw. The widow was shocked. She waved her hands and the tiles were broken and scattered. But in a moment, the farmer's body was already in front of her. She had no time to dodge and was hit on the spot. The two people rolled together and fell off the roof. They hit a piece of tile and fell to the ground. The hero clapped his hands and scolded himself. Does it hurt? Does it hurt? Slow down your qing gong and you will be safe forever. Do you think this slogan is nonsense? Go and apologize to each and every one of them. Second, you guys ruined my banquet. Damn, how expensive are things these days. I work hard every day. Today, I used my hard-earned money to open a restaurant. Tell me, do you think it was easy? He stretched out his hand and said amiably, So, it's not too much to pay for a meal, right? Pay up and apologize, and I'll let you go today. The two of them looked at each other in surprise. They seemed to realize that they had made a mistake. The farmer said in disbelief, You're not here to kill us? Sun Leng rolled his eyes. Do I look so fierce? The farmer still wanted to say something, but suddenly, a cold female voice sounded from behind. Shameless this banquet, shouldn't it be charged to old Master Zhao's account? How did it become your hard-earned money? Sun Leng said proudly, I earn money with my own ability. It's none of your business. It's a man's business, women. Hey, what's wrong with you? When the farmer heard this voice, his body instinctively trembled. He looked up in disbelief and met a pair of surprised eyes. Lu Shuzhen was surprised. You are Run to go? The farmer's face changed several times, showing a happy and sad expression. He moved his lips, but did not make a sound. He wanted to escape, but there was nowhere to hide. He seemed to have thousands of words in his heart, but he could not say them. Finally, his attitude became respectful. He struggled to get up and bowed, Mississippi, Lu Shujian seemed to shiver. She was stunned and then became silent. The atmosphere instantly became awkward. After a while, Sun Lang pinched his throat and said in a strange voice, "Ah, why are you so polite? Didn't you call each other brother and sister?" "It's still the same, Sister Sun." Master Lu glanced at him coldly. "Shut your mouth." Sun Lang pursed his lips and took 2 steps forward to help the farmer up. Oh, so you're family. You should have said so earlier. Come, let me introduce myself. I'm Sun Lang, your Mrs. Husband. Come, call me son-in-law." Maybe Sun Lang's acting was too good, or maybe the farmer was too honest, but when he looked at Sun Lang's sincere and warm smile, he actually said stiffly, "Son-in-law." Damn it, why don't I feel any sense of accomplishment? "Are you done?" Lu Shujian said coldly from behind. "Move aside, I have something to ask Brother Runtu." Sun Lang pursed his lips and moved aside. Lu Shujian took a few steps forward and looked at the farmer. Her eyes gradually became sharp. "Brother Runtu, after I came back, I couldn't find you. I also went to your house, but your house was already. At that time, I thought you had passed away and was sad for many days. Where have you been all these years? Also, I remember that you don't know martial arts. But now, you have good martial arts skills that are not inferior to mine. Can you tell me what happened?" Runtu's eyes kept changing and his lips kept trembling, but he couldn't say a word. His face showed a painful expression, and his hands kept shaking. Suddenly, he roared, and true energy poured into his legs, and rushed out like a sharp arrow. Sun Lang yawned and casually stretched out his leg to trip the farmer. Suddenly, the farmer fell to the ground. He bent down to help the other party up, and then said sincerely, "Brother, really, in front of me you don't have to show off that little bit of martial arts. Even if I use the 4th set of National Middle School radio gymnastics, I can still beat you up like a baby eagle. Whatever your miss asks, you answer, it's good for both of us." When he helped the farmer up, his right hand fell on the farmer's back, and gently pressed on his spine twice. Then, a puzzled expression appeared on his face. Even the farmer himself didn't know about his little movements, but Lu Shujian saw through it at a glance, and asked coldly, "What did you find? Is it?" Sun Lang pressed twice again. "It's the spine of a normal human, not a centipede." Hearing the word, centipede, the faces of 4th sister-in-law Dan and the farmer changed dramatically at the same time. Lu Shujian saw it and her expression became colder. "You two really know something. Brother Runtu, are you still not going to say it?" The farmer hesitated and shook his head. "Miss, I really can't say. You can't be involved in this matter. Please leave Lu Town immediately and never come back." Sun Lang nodded with satisfaction. It seems that the key NPC of the main mission has been obtained. Lu Shujian didn't seem to have such a leisurely attitude. She directly took 2 steps forward, reached out and grabbed the farmer's collar, and said in a stern voice, "That's my home. That's my family. If it were you, would you leave without caring about anything?" The farmer didn't seem to dare to look her in the eyes. He turned his head to the side and whispered, "Miss, why don't you kill me?" Lu Shujian was furious. She raised her left hand and wanted to use the personality-correcting punch, but the next moment a dull sound was heard. The farmer's eyes rolled back and his body straightened up and he fainted. Startled, Master Lu hurriedly let go. The farmer fell to the ground with a thud and fainted. Sun Lang nonchalantly withdrew his sinful fist and whistled a few times. Sun Lang shrugged and stared at him with cold, murderous eyes. "What's wrong?" This kind of honest and dull guy, once he makes up his mind, his mouth is tighter than anyone else's. It's really not easy to pry open his mouth. You're too impulsive and too young. Don't you just want information? How simple. The way to interrogate is to separate them, throw the die-hard ones aside, and then pry open the mouths of those who aren't. It's much easier. He looked meaningfully at fourth sister-in-law Dan, who had shrunk to the side. He shrugged his shoulders and let out a sinister laugh that made him look like a rogue and a villain. Sun Lang's expression gradually became gentle, and he said softly, "Then let's start with the recent events. Just now I saw you running around, not so much in a hurry, but more like running away. When I threw a cup at your companion, he fought back with full strength, full of murderous intent. This is obviously the behavior of a cornered dog jumping over a wall. From this, I can infer that you should be running for your life, because there is a force that you can't resist that wants to kill you." He thought for a moment. "Moreover, you don't know who the other party is, and you don't know how the other party wants to kill you, so you treat me as the pursuer, right?" Fourth sister-in-law Dan nodded her head imperceptibly and made a very soft sound of acknowledgement. Goodness, he had taken a small breakthrough. Sun Lang's smile became more gentle, and he struck while the iron was hot. "Then can you tell me why the other party wants to kill you?" Fourth sister-in-law Dan's face immediately showed a frightened and embarrassed expression. Sun Lang immediately changed his words. "Then let's not talk about this, don't be afraid, everything will be over. Then let's change the question, why did you decide to run away? Did you see something or found something?" Hua Xiaoxuan's body, the miserable condition of the 9 caddies-old woman, horrible images flashed in her mind, and fourth sister-in-law Dan shuddered. She seemed to be even more scared. Well, obviously she encountered something terrible, so she was scared out of her wits. "This should be the key point," the ranger said softly. "You don't want to talk about this? It doesn't matter, then just tell me directly, where did you escape from?" Fourth sister-in-law Dan's expression changed. She wanted to say, but she still hesitated. Seeing her like this, Sun Lang immediately struck while the iron was hot, and his tone became cold. "You can't say this? Aren't you being too disrespectful? My patience is limited, don't challenge my bottom line, and," he coldly said, "this is the center of the town, you passed through here instead of taking a detour, so you definitely didn't come from outside the town. You are so high profile in the town, there are many people who saw you. As long as I ask around, I don't believe I can't find out where you came from. But if I can find out, what do I need you for? If you have no value, why should I be so polite to you? What kind of treatment a useless person will receive, you should be able to imagine. Do you have to suffer a little before you think I'm not joking?" Fourth sister-in-law Dan's expression changed several times, and her body trembled even more. Obviously, her heart was on the verge of collapse. Sun Lang suddenly shouted, "Speak!" Her body trembled, and she loudly said, "100 Herb Garden. We escaped from 100 Herb Garden." "Good, it's 100 Herb Garden again." Sun Lang looked at fourth sister-in-law Dan's frightened eyes with a smile. Suddenly, his expression changed, and he smiled very cutely. "Thank you for your cooperation." Chapter 268. Lu Shujian's complexion slightly changed when she heard fourth sister-in-law Dan say that she escaped from the herb garden. Sun Lang turned a blind eye to her strange expression and said to fourth sister-in-law Dan, "What happened in the herb garden? You didn't have any injuries, and you didn't seem to have experienced a fierce battle. Your expression looks, well, fear is greater than panic. So you should have seen something terrible that you can't understand, rather than discovering someone's secret. Well, what did you see? Can you take me to see it?" The widow trembled and showed a look of fear. I don't want to go there. I will die." "Good girl, be smart," the ranger said with a pleasant expression. "You speak as if I won't kill you." Poor fourth sister-in-law Dan trembled even more. Master Lu seemed to be unable to stand it any more. He said in a gentle tone, "Sister, if you are just afraid of encountering danger, don't worry. This master can fight more than you think. If you are not safe around him, then there is no safe place in the world. That is, if he doesn't touch you." Sun Lang rolled his eyes and smiled at the widow, who was even more frightened. "Don't listen to her nonsense. You've been married before, and you're a widow. You're hot and ugly. I'm from the group of people who accept everything. I'm not interested in you." This happy result really doesn't make me happy. The ranger saw that fourth sister-in-law Dan's attitude had changed, so he continued to persuade her. "Your mood just now was fear, confusion, and despair. That is to say, you are not sure whether you can escape with your life. So, you are scared, desperate, and helpless. In that case, why not take a gamble? Bet that I will solve this matter. Bet that I will help you to avoid the fatal disaster?" Fourth sister-in-law Dan's expression changed, but then she looked at the farmer lying on the ground. Her eyes showed a look of embarrassment. Sun Lang guessed her thoughts and waved his hand. "He certainly won't agree. Didn't you see his eyes just now? Obviously, he has some unspeakable feelings for his eldest miss. So, even if he dies, he doesn't want his eldest miss to encounter any danger. Alas, 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 what a pity, what a pity!" Hearing this, Lu Shujian said with a faint smile, "Are you jealous?" Sun Lang said calmly, "No, there's no vinegar in today's meal." Master Lu smiled. "It seems that you've been targeting and playing tricks on Runtu since the beginning. You tricked him into calling you son-in-law, you made weird noises, you knocked him out. Why? Are you jealous? Are you unhappy?" The ranger sighed. "You're so annoying. Fine, fine, fine. I'm jealous, I'm jealous. In order to nip this thread in the bud, I'll beat him to death on the street." Dr. Lu snorted. "Aren't you afraid that I'll hate you?" Sun Lang said honestly, "I'm not afraid. I don't want your heart. You're going to walk the path of evil. What's the use of having a heart?" "Bah!" Lu Shujian kicked Sun Lang's butt. The ranger nimbly jumped to the side. He clapped his hands. "Well, let's not waste time. Let's go now, little girl." Sister-in-law Dan stood up hesitantly. She was a woman without a mind of her own. After being persuaded by Sun Lang and Lu Shujian, she agreed in a daze. However, she was still worried about her companion. She glanced at the farmer on the ground. "Then let's wake him up first and then, no need. Just let him lie here for a while." Sun Lang waved his hand. "If we wake him up, he might make a big fuss and stop us. At that time, I'll drink Beauty Lu's dry vinegar and get angry. I'll raise my big fist and punch his head into a vat. That won't be good. Okay, let's go." "No." Sister-in-law Dan gathered her courage and objected. "The situation is so dangerous now. He fainted here. What if he's killed?" Sun Lang smiled and glanced at Lu Shujian, indicating that she should explain. "Don't worry." Master Lu smiled knowingly. The two of them exchanged meaningful glances. Then she said to sister-in-law Dan, "Believe me, he'll be safe here." At first, sister-in-law Dan stubbornly refused to believe. Lu Shujian had no choice but to whisper a few words in her ear. In addition, Sun Lang played the bad guy and glared at her. The poor widow finally gave in again. She looked at the farmer reluctantly, her eyes filled with hesitation and worry. She was really afraid that this separation would be death, but, Sun Lang said fiercely, "If you don't hurry up, I'll make you two go through the wedding ceremony. Then each of you will be forced to drink 3 kilograms of the Buddha's staff and locked in a small dark room." Sister-in-law Dan was shocked and finally ran away with tears in her eyes. The faster she came back, the less likely the farmer would be in trouble. The three of them didn't say much and rushed to the 100-herb garden. Along the way, Sun Lang made indirect inquiries and elicited a lot of useful information from fourth sister-in-law Dan. Bits and pieces of information gradually formed a complete jigsaw puzzle. So there are 3 people as strong as you too? Sun Lang touched his chin. Are you the 5 people who formed the 4 heavenly kings? There are 8 of us. Sister-in-law Dan smiled bitterly. She did not know if she should tell them everything or keep something to herself. But first, let them see the bodies of Hua Xiaoxuan and Zhu Jin's old lady. They obviously knew about the flying centipede. And although this man looked very evil and scary, his martial arts were really good. Maybe he could really help them. At this time, the herb garden was already in front of them. Lu Shuzhen looked at her home. The horizontal board of Lu Mansion was hanging high above the door. A few years ago, this was the symbol of the richest family in Lu Town. The Lu family was at its peak, and its reputation was illustrious. The gate was as busy as a marketplace, and there was an endless stream of horses and carriages. Now it had withered to this extent. She grew up in the prosperous Lu family, but did not see it decline with her own eyes. Master Lu sighed sadly. In this complicated and sorrowful mood, there was a bastard beside him who spoiled the mood. This person is already dead. What's the use of being sad and emotional? Hurry up, tidy up your mood, find the culprit, kill him, cut him into minced meat, and dig out his heart, liver, intestines, and lungs to pay tribute to the ancestors. Then, you can start from the beginning and rebuild the family. Don't worry, I will help you. We are good brothers, loyal friends. As your best friend, I am willing to give you free help. For example, some precious seeds. Lu Shuzhen said coldly, Is this how you comfort others? I'm sorry you. Sun Lang picked his nose and said, I came out from a crack in a rock. I don't know how to comfort my family. I remember when I came to this world from a crack in a rock, I couldn't find my father, I couldn't see my mother, and I saw blood. Broken limbs, bloody corpses, my young heart was greatly traumatized, and I missed my father and mother. I was so scared that I couldn't stop crying. When a certain cold and beautiful doctor sister checked my body, she also impatiently said, What are you crying for? You're so useless. At that time, I really choked, but I couldn't beat her. Don't mention how sullen it was. Lu Shuzhen was stunned. You still remember? Humans are creatures that rely on their memories to survive. Sun Lang's smile was very calm. Otherwise, how do you think I relied on my memories to survive? Love? Master Lu lowered his eyes and said in a low voice, So, you hate me? I remember your bad moments, but I also remember a lot of your good ones. I remember very clearly. Sun Lang shrugged. So, I'll just pretend that your period came on that day. The woman's expression changed and she struggled. In the end, she sighed in a low voice. I'm sorry. That's strange. You can also admit your mistake. I thought you were going to talk back. Sun Lang looked at Lu Shuzhen in surprise, and then shook his head. It's okay. I want to say that, but it's harder to say than I thought. I just think that if an apology is useful... He stepped into the lonely Lu mansion. Why do I need a sword? Sister-in-law Dan cautiously walked past Master Lu, and then trotted to follow him. She didn't know what grudges there were between the two people, but she instinctively felt that it was better not to think too much. Lu Shuzhen was still standing in front of the mansion of the herb garden. She suddenly felt a chill in her bones. Only now did she truly feel one thing. That person was really back. At this moment, she suddenly heard the panicked scream of sister-in-law Dan. Lu Shuzhen's expression changed. She didn't care about anything else and jumped into the herb garden. Chapter 269. Village head was a position. The empire's imperial power did not go to the countryside. In order to increase its control over the countryside and increase the exploitation of the peasants, the imperial court vigorously carried out a campaign to encourage the landlords to go to the countryside and the villagers to govern. In the villages there were positions such as village head, village head, village head, village secretary, elder, and archer to catch thieves, manage household registration, collect taxes, and teach agriculture. Most of these positions were held by local tycoons and triad bosses. It didn't matter if they were clean or not, as long as they knew how to suppress and exploit the peasants. Of course, in the eyes of the transmigrator Sun Lang, this method of deviating from the path of the masses and being unable to go deep into the grassroots had fatal drawbacks and bloody precedent. For example, a certain ruler surnamed Liu was just a mere constable back then. Then, relying on the progress of history and personal struggles, he was suddenly transferred to Guangzhou. After the whole world studied him, it was decided that he would be the emperor. This kind of classic case of an unknown civil servant soaring to the sky could only be compared to a librarian whose name was immortalized in history, worshipped by tens of thousands of people, and whose theories were still being studied and promoted to this day. Yes, this librarian's surname was Li, and his first name was Er. He was once an official of the Zhou dynasty's treasury and was in charge of managing the books. Later, due to the progress of history, his occupation column in his resume became Taishang Laojun. People should read more books and be careful of the traps in the questions. This Peking University librarian was just a temporary job. How could he be considered a civil servant? Oh, speaking of temporary jobs, actually, these village heads, elders, and so on were also temporary workers. Although their positions were officially recognized, there was no rank, no salary, no insurance, and no bonus points for the college entrance examination. Simply speaking, they were working for the imperial court for free. They contributed to the cause of feudalism for free. They were conscientious and conscientious. It was commonly known in the pugilistic world as self-employed. Well, it was better than self-employed. At least in the villages and towns they were in, they had a social status that made people envious. They also had great authority and a large amount of grey profit. In short, it was a good job. But at least now, the position of village head in Lu Town was no longer a good job. This was because a terrifying devil with the surname Sun had set his eyes on the poor village head. Oh, Moses Roy, oh, Moses Roy. Sun Lang nodded repeatedly. Previously, we saw Hua Xiaoshuan mysteriously die under the stage. Mysteriously. At that time, the town's Li Zheng had already determined the cause of his death. He took his body away and placed it in the memorial hall, waiting to be collected and buried. But why would his body appear in the 100-herb garden? Lu Shuzhen frowned and said, "There are only 3 reasons. First, after Li Zheng placed the corpse in the memorial hall, it was stolen and sent here. Secondly, Li was on the way to transport the corpse when he was ambushed and robbed. The corpse was then sent here. Thirdly, Li Zheng himself sent the corpse here." Sun Lang nodded. "So, no matter what, we have to look for the town's Li Zheng. Hey, little girl, what are you thinking about?" After fourth sister-in-law Dan found that the body was missing, she fell into great fear and panic. Her eyes flickered, as if she had caught a life-saving straw. Xiangling's sister-in-law is just missing, maybe she's not dead. She's crazy, she even mistook Hua Xiaoshuan's body for her dead child. Could it be that she hid the body? It must be. Sun Lang shook his head. Then how do you explain the disappearance of the bloodstains? Even if her qigong is excellent and she can take the body away without leaving any traces, how did the bloodstains disappear? Even if she licked it, she can't lick it so cleanly. This matter is full of strangeness. But no matter what, Hua Xiaoshuan's body appeared here. Li Zheng must be involved. Let's go and look for him. Fourth sister-in-law Dan was worried about the farmer's safety. She also wanted to tell her companions about this strange matter to share the fear in her heart, so she said weakly, "You guys go and look for Li Jing, can I go back?" Sun Lang smiled and said, "Since you're so kind and want to feed the centipedes with your own body, then please do as you please." Fourth sister-in-law Dan didn't think of this for a while. After hearing Sun Lang's reminder, she realized that she was still in a terrible crisis. What's more, in less than half an hour, the bodies of Hua Xiaoxuan and Jiu Jin old lady disappeared, as if they had never appeared in this world. This simply meant that when the 5 people entered 100 Herb Garden, there were malicious and cruel eyes watching them die, watching their fear, watching them go crazy, watching them escape. Just like a cat playing with a mouse, so her body trembled and her eyes drooped, revealing a timid and delicate expression. Coupled with her pure white mourning dress of a widow, it was really pitiful. But Sun Lang didn't pity him. He picked his nose and said disdainfully, "What? You want me, who is worth around 3 million per second, to send you back?" Lu Shuzhen frowned and said, "She is already very scared. Why do you have to bully and make fun of her? You are always like this, that's why no woman likes you." Sun Lang flew into a rage. "Bullshit. Nonsense. My entire body is filled with raging hormones. With a crook of my finger, a shake of my tiger body, and a few tricks, I can make a chaste woman's legs go soft and her face turn red. She can't control herself and only wants to throw herself into my arms. I'm such an aphrodisiac. How can you taint my innocence?" Master Lu laughed and said, "Other people are afraid that the other party won't believe them when they brag, but you are afraid that the other party will believe you." The ranger sneered and didn't refute. His eyes flashed, and in an instant, he didn't know how many vicious and cunning plans flashed through his mind. Dr. Lu didn't know these things. She turned to look at fourth sister-in-law Dan and said gently, "You'd better come with us. Don't worry, Brother Runtu will be fine. You have to worry more about yourself." Fourth sister-in-law Dan sighed and nodded. The 3 of them safely left the herb garden, and nothing strange happened on the way. It seemed that the mastermind behind this quiet and desolate garden was also afraid of this young man with high martial arts. Fourth sister-in-law Dan breathed a sigh of relief, and a glimmer of hope gradually ignited in her heart. Maybe, this time, they can really. Li Zheng was a famous person in the town. Basically, everyone knew where his house was. Sun Lang and the others asked an NPC for directions and went straight to his house. Not long after, the 3 of them arrived in front of a house with 3 entrances and 3 exits. Although it was not as big as the Kong, Xie, and Lu families, it could be called a mansion in Lu Town. It seemed that this place was very comfortable. But in the next moment the 3 of them were shocked. Even with their martial arts they could hear crying coming from the house. Not good. Sun Lang pushed open the door and went through 2 more doors before entering the main house. Several women and maids were crying. Their cries were mixed with screams of horror. Obviously, they had seen something terrible. The person who looked like a housekeeper rushed out with a few servants with pale faces. When he saw Sun Lang and the others, he shouted, "Who are you? Get out! Get out!" Why would Sun Lang care about him? He walked straight ahead. The housekeeper was furious and reached out to grab Sun Lang's shoulder. But in the next moment, Master Lu took a step forward and hit the housekeeper with his palm. The housekeeper screamed and fell to the ground and fainted. When fourth sister-in-law Dan saw this, she silently shot out more than a dozen cotton threads. The cotton threads were very thin, but under the infusion of internal force, it was very tough. The few servants were tied up and thrown in all directions. They were so scared that they screamed and rolled to the side to hide. The paladin was surprised. "Wow, I thought I was with Chao Patao. When did you become such a lackey?" Lu Shuzhen said coldly, "I'm saving a life. It's better than building a 7-floor pagoda." Sun Lang rolled his eyes. "You say it as if I would kill someone if I don't agree. Hey little girl, Do I look like such a person to you? What do you think you did when you threatened us before? Fourth sister-in-law Dan was angry, but she was forced by Sun Lang's abuse of power. How could she dare to say that? She could only whisper against her will, "No." Well, you're much more sensible than Aunt Lou. No wonder Brother Runto likes you and doesn't like her. Sun Lang nodded. There's also a group of old ladies inside. These creatures are extremely troublesome. Not only do they like to make a big fuss, but if they're pushed too far, they'll even get physical. I'm not afraid of arguing at all, but getting physical is too disgusting. So if they're noisy in a while, you can tie them all up. Do you want me to teach you how to tie them up? There's a long-lost rope skill called the chest bind. When fourth sister-in-law Dan heard the name, she felt her chastity deeply tremble. She hurriedly took a few steps forward. Her hands fluttered like butterflies. Dozens of cotton threads flew out and wrapped around the women in the room. In an instant, the women who were crying and screaming in the room were tied up, causing a burst of panic and panic. I mean, wait until they start to make a lot of noise and don't cooperate, then you can tie them up. Sun Lang sighed. Forget it, that's fine. By the way, your weapon is very powerful, Dongfang Mushroom. The women in the room were still screaming in panic. Sun Lang walked into the room and let out a shocking roar. Shut up, or you'll all be sold to the brothel. Sun Lang's high charm and persuasive skills played a role. Everyone saw the ranger's kind face and listened to his reasonable and heartwarming words. They all closed their mouth. The ranger picked his ears and looked up. Only then did he see Li Zheng's body. Li Zheng, who was about 50 years old and had a smart and capable mustache, was sitting on a chair with a pale face and a strange smile on his face. Sarcasm, ridicule, and complacency? Sun Lang said to himself, feeling complacent before death? And ridicule. Who was it directed at? Obviously, it was directed at me. Ridiculing me for making a wasted trip, ridiculing me for wasting my time? And very complacent? This is obviously not the expression a normal person should have when they die. Then he stretched out his hand and flicked it gently. Li Zheng's body suddenly jumped up and fell forward, lying on the ground. Those women who were watching in panic and didn't know what Sun Lang wanted to do found their master's body on the ground. They all shouted and struggled. It seemed that they were very emotional. Then they saw something. Then, screams of horror and shouts of horror echoed in the house with extremely high decibels. A few women even fainted. Sun Lang waved his hand. The clothes on Li Zheng's back seemed to be cut by an invisible blade and then separated. From the back of the head to the spine, there was nothing. There was only flesh and blood and a looming darkness. Fourth sister-in-law Dan, who followed in, covered her mouth. Lu Shujian's expression also changed abruptly. Both of them didn't look good. The former was recalling the terrifying nightmare, while the latter was thinking of an even worse situation. No wonder Hua Xiaoshuan's body was taken away by him, but mysteriously appeared in Herb Garden. It turned out that Li Zheng was actually, at this moment, even Lu Shujian, who was as cold as ice, couldn't help but change her expression. Her voice trembled slightly. The town's Li Zheng was actually killed by the flying centipede. Is there anyone else who was also? Sun Lang said lightly. Things are getting more and more interesting. This clue is basically broken. Whether we can make progress or not depends on whether the fish on the other side takes the bait. At the same time, the farmer was still lying on the ground miserably. He frowned and hadn't woken up yet. The passers-by occasionally cast strange glances and pointed at him, but they didn't pay attention to him. A farmer in ragged clothes, sleeping on the side of the road, was not something worth paying attention to. Anyway, they didn't know him, however. Not far away, 2 pairs of eyes were paying attention to this side. The 2 people were wearing cloaks, and their whereabouts were mysterious. They knew the farmer and wanted to do something. Hot piece, Motherf ** cur. The short man bit his finger and cursed. That pretty boy, did you see that? It's strange. Motherf asterisk cur, did you see that fork of Runta's? Not to mention me, you probably couldn't take it either. But he was caught by that pretty boy and swung around with his fork. Runta couldn't even take one hit from him. Hot piece, Motherf asterisk cur, when did such a strange guy come to Loo Town? Seeing that his companion was silent, he said angrily, Motherf asterisk cur, don't pretend to be mute. Quickly think of a way. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. When that pretty boy comes back, we won't have another chance. These two guys look like they're running for their lives. They must have found something. Maybe we can win them over and help us. At the very least, they can tell us what happened. So, let's go and get him. The tall man was Kong Zhongwu. He frowned and said hesitantly, I feel that something is wrong. What's wrong? Xie Agui's saliva flew and he growled, if you hesitate any longer, it'll be too late. Whether that pretty boy is a friend or a foe, let's not talk about it for now. We have to at least figure out what happened. Kong Zhongwu hesitated for a moment, then gritted his teeth and said, then, let's do it. In the restaurant diagonally across the street, in a private room on the second floor, Zhao Yunlong was sitting by the window. He slowly drank wine and stared at the farmer below without moving his eyes.